The whole time.
Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back. Happy New Year, happy 2019 to everyone. And we are joined today on the first day of the new year by Alec Merlino. There he is.
With his perfect posture.
Apparently this perfect posture. He's worried about his posture. So anybody who's just listening and not watching, Alec has perfect posture this entire time. This is our second guest for Survivor David versus Goliath. And this is a great way to start the new year. Alec's gonna go off here, right? Like we're gonna get some Carl impersonations. I think we were promised. Like we're going all in here.
New Year's, baby. They saved you guys saved the best one. January 1st, baby.
That's it. Now 2019 is downhill from here. That's the problem.
Yeah, great start, terrible finish.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna be a good year. It's gonna be the best year yet. That's what I say every year, and it is.
There you go. That's a good mentality. I feel like everybody else would say that's what I say every year, and then it's awful. And I hope not better. But
alrighty.
Let's do it. So Alec was okay. I got to make sure I get all this stuff right while we start rattling this off. But Alec
voted out. Yeah.
Voted out. Got 10 plays. A 9-1 vote. It wasn't like a crazy. You didn't have the crazy epic blindside or anything like that. But Alex, so early on, when we're talking David versus Goliath, you get out there, you're on the Goliath tribe, you're looking around, you got all these big buff guys. There it is.
Oh, you didn't. I've noticed the buff, baby. Come on.
There it is.
I see it. Is that the one that you wore on the island? Because it looks quite dirty.
Yeah. This is the official, sweat.
Wow. How many times will you have to wash your hair after you wear this?
Oh, I don't wash my hair anyways, so it's
Perfect. And I'm assuming you haven't washed the buff, right? There's no way you could have done that.
No.
Good.
No, you got to leave it. It still smells. Look, this one smells too.
There you go. There's the other one. So when we're talking about the early part, I'm assuming you got one buff on, and then we're gonna switch it up once we get to the
we might switch it up when we crank it up to phase 2. Mm-hmm. We're gonna move through this podcast like we moved through the game of Survivor, right? So right now it's moving. And then it's going to swap, and it's going to turn up.
There we go.
I don't have the blue one, though, but I have a green one. So that's going to be the merge, and then the podcast is going to really, really start cranking.
That's when shit's going to go.
Where's the blue one go?
The blue one's at home. It's I'm in San Diego. It's in San Clemente, so I don't have it. I don't have the blue. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let's start it off then. Let's start off like at the beginning here. You're on the Goliath tribe. We didn't hear much from you super early in the game. You were there. I remember for the first boot when it is Jeremy going home, you're sitting there and we see a very strong reaction from you. We didn't hear much from you in these early days. So I'd like to know like what's going on there. But if you want to just start with being on the boat and you find out that it's going to be David versus Goliath. Now we've only had Carl on so far, so we've only heard from a David. And obviously I think he was pumped about it because, who doesn't want to be the underdog who like overtakes the Goliath? But what are you thinking when you find out you're a Goliath?
It's so interesting when we jumped on when you're on like that barge and then Jeff announced the whole theme. It's like a really weird experience because I was like, dude, I swear I like blacked out from the time you get on the little boats that go like this till you get up on the barge and then you step on the thing and I'm like, oh, that's right. Like there's a theme to this. I wasn't thinking about the theme. I was just thinking like Survivor, there's 2 tribes. But then when he announced it, I was like, okay, like this is cool. But I was actually super nervous. Like it was before he even announced the theme. You're on the 2 boats. We come together. We climb up the barge. And I had remembered sitting on the boat looking at everyone. And I was saying to myself, dude, I'm getting voted out. I'm sure everyone says that who plays Survivor to tell you. They're like, I thought I was being, going to be the first boot. But I'm looking at everyone. And I said to myself, yeah, I'll probably be the first one voted out. And then he says David versus Goliath. And he, talks to everyone. He's like, what do you do? What do you do? And it was Natalia, like the engineer, the doctor, the writer. I'm like, can I curse on here? Probably not.
Whatever you want to do. Carl started doing it. It's all good.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Fuck, bro. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then he called the music. What do you do? I'm like, I'm a bartender.
Wait, what was your question? Because we didn't see it. Like, what did he ask you?
I think like kind of so Jeff, he really does a good job at, going through each person. And his questions to me, it was just like you in the back. I'm like, what up? And then he was just like,
there.
He just was like, what do you do? And I was like, I bartend. And I mean, I was so nervous when that whole thing went down. You know, when you're like sitting in class and you're like, please don't call me. That's what it was like. I'm like, don't call me, dude. Because it was like everyone had already answered. There was like 10 people had spoken before me. So when I heard Mike, he's a writer, and then all these really cool stories and all these people, I'm like, all these people are so rad. And then I'm like, don't call on me, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm just thinking of what I'm gonna say. He's like, you in the back, what do you do? I'm like, yo, what's up? I bartend. And he had to give me the feed me the answer, like spoon fed it. He's like, so are you saying like, you know, like it's your charm that I'm like, yeah, it's the charm, I guess. And then that was it. He's like, all right, you're boring him.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think that was everybody's reaction when this whole thing comes out. I mean, you have John Mundo, you have the SWAT officer, Dan, you have the doctor, like you were saying, you have Ned Schneebly, and it's like, why is Alec there? He's a bartender. Like, we get it, like you're strong, you're muscular, all of that, but like everybody, I think, had that same reaction. It was like, aren't bartender, like, what is a bartender? Unless you're like working in Vegas making like, you know, thousands of dollars every weekend, but like I could see where you're getting that, especially if you have John Mundo going before you, and it's like, oh, cool. Like there's this guy who slams people like onto whatever. This is crazy.
That's the interesting thing too. I mean, I think it was, what did people call me, like the biggest head scratcher of this? They're like, why is he on? Which I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm on the Goliath guy. I'm like, that's a great question. Why don't you ask them? But I know that they did say a lot of the casting process, you go through like major like psychological background checks. And so I think where people get the season, not wrong, but they asked, they're like, what were you, David or Goliath? And I said, I was a Goliath. But I think, you know, like the people on Goliath and the people on David, it goes both. Like everyone on Goliath had everyone has a David story. Everyone on David has a Goliath story. And a lot of the Davids showed, I mean, Christian in the Perch Challenge, right? Goliath. I mean, so I know a lot of what they said, the reason we were placed on those tribes is, if you watch, there's a thing with Jeff, and he says a lot of it is about your own perception of yourself. Like, I grew up, I have an older brother. I have a younger sister we're very close in age. So I grew up in a family where everything was like competitive. I was always surfing, bike. So a lot of my life, I was like, dude, I'm like competitive. I wasn't super popular in school, but it was just like, he's like, you know, I'm used to like winning, and I like to be like, have people around me and be well liked. So I think that's what it was, how I perceived myself. I saw myself as like a winner, a Goliath. And I wasn't given everything, but I wasn't, I didn't have these stories on paper like Nick or like Pat, right?
Yeah. It's all worn on the sleeve there. And I think that's what Jeff tried to make the point of on day one was, it's David versus Goliath, not necessarily because you're the most successful person in the world, but more of where you came from and what you've had to overcome in order to get to where you are. And I guess at the time, being a bartender, you just had to overcome like walking in the door, like, right?
Like, and I guess you just had to swipe a credit cards.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
people, take it easy, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Collect the money, and then, you know, you walk down to the next person. Yeah. But no, I get where that's coming from. And I think David versus Goliath was one of those themes where it was, oh God, here we are, we're forcing it. This is another one of those Survivor themes. Everybody always complains about the theme. It doesn't matter what it is, it can be anything. But this was one where, you know, it felt like, what is Jeff going to play up every time? I mean, especially like, I get that Mike White is incredibly successful, but when you look at Mike White and then you sit there and tell me like he belongs on the same tribe as like you, Dan, and John Mundo, it's hard because Goliath was a physical, you know, monster, not like a brainiac or whatever, you know, Mike White. I mean, Mike White's insanely successful, but it's so different, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I know that's like tricky too. People see David Goliath and instantly they think, oh, like physical stature. Like John, you belong. Dan, you belong, right? And so like Allison, you belong. Actually, like a lot of the people, but I think it's Jeff would like really kind of like embellish that, or like kept hitting on that. It was like, it's not about like what they look like. It's about like the story, their own perception. What did you guys see? I'm not like, I don't read all the like articles and stuff, you know, pre-Survivor, because I wasn't like a huge Survivor fan before that. I was a fan, but I wasn't like a fan where I would go read articles. What did you guys think when they first episode when they announced it. I keep looking down here. I have to look up here.
No, it's totally fine.
I liked it. I was super into the theme. I think we're at a time where there's going to be a theme no matter what. So in the grand scheme of the themes we've had, especially recently, this one, it's biblical. So it's been around forever. It's a cool story. And like you said, everyone probably thought it was going to be the Johnny Nitros versus not. And it wasn't like that. So there was a little more meat to the story. So I was really into it. I was fine with it when they announced it.
I think what was interesting for me, and this is something that I read a lot, preseason, was in David versus Goliath, there was a winner. When it was Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, there's not necessarily a winner there. But David versus Goliath, David took down Goliath. We all know that. So there's that built-in story already where you're assuming that a David's going to win.
You're already rooting. Yeah.
Yeah, you're already rooting for it. And what I thought was so interesting about this season was that the Goliath tribe, and I think this speaks a lot to the personalities on that tribe, were able to overcome that, where people were automatically rooting for the Christians, the Knicks, the Gabbies, the Davies of the world, and still get a rooting interest behind a John, behind you, behind Kara, behind Allison. Have people, you kind of had to overcome that already because you're already being viewed as the bad guy right off the bat, especially Angelina's the first one who speaks for you guys. So it was right off the bat, and it was her saying, look at them tripping and falling up. It's cute. It was instantly, these are your big bad villains, and here's your nice little cute, can these nerds overtake them,
I don't think there's been a season, I've watched quite a few, but where the theme, right? Because I think, two really cool things about this season, which actually Jeremy at the finale mentioned to me. He goes, I think a lot of people, and you guys let me know what you think, but Jeremy had said, he's like, I think a lot of people really liked this season because they've proved that if you have a good cast, classic Survivor works. You don't need, a ton of advantages. However, I think that this season, and especially being in the game, the theme of this season stuck, and it actually played not to a disadvantage for people, but it was we always went back to David and Goliath, so much to the point where when there's a season where he just names two tribes, he's like, you're Motu and you're Kahuna Pua or whatever, right? There's no, you guys might be friends the first 10 days, but then come to merge, it's that's gone. You're not thinking about it. Whereas day one and then come all the way to day 39, they were still thinking about David, Goliath, the numbers, it was we're sticking with us and we're sticking with us, which was so crazy to me. Watching it back, I was like, oh my God.
Well, yeah. And not to get too far ahead here, right? But you were the first one to really break that because you decided to vote out Natalia, and you were the first one to do that. And that's what I was sitting there and I was going, is Alec gonna somehow finagle his way into Final Five here with these Davids? How is he gonna pull that off? Because that's what it felt like at the time. It was either he's going next, or he's gonna somehow, this is going to work out because he's the only one who actually took control. And then it kind of seemed like you had ideas later on, but it was more just
they didn't work out.
Yeah,
but they were there.
Yeah, there was something going on.
There was something going on here, but I just couldn't get it on paper. I couldn't execute.
Yeah.
To Phil's point, I'm looking in the chat right now, and I'm remembering all the tweets when you were trying to make moves in the early merge, and I think everyone agrees that you helped prevent your season from becoming what Ghost Island was. So it's you were definitely a huge part of that, and as a viewer, it certainly made season way better.
Thanks. I'm honored. I'm glad people think that. That's sick.
Well, because so then the David versus
I'm gonna change my Instagram bio to save season 37.
That's it. But it's true though, because it's David versus Goliath. You come out, of course, on day one. That first challenge was set up for the Davids to win. As a viewer, know that they want to show the viewers that, hey, they can do this. But then what does Goliath do? They come out and they win the next two immunities to send David to tribal council, and you're sitting there going, okay, is this just going to turn into what Goes On was, where the first two boots are Jacob and Gonzalez, and then after that, they can never get their footing again. And it was that orange tribe, which, sorry, we don't know the name of your tribe because, you said,
no idea.
What was it?
Buku.
Vuku. So once it was Vuku, that was where that actually changed a little bit because you guys had the numbers on every single tribe. And I don't know if you're thinking about it from like that perspective. I want to get into what your thought process was behind the Natalia boot, but thank you for making it entertaining TV because that could have been really brutal.
If Natalia's, I don't know if Natalia's watching this. She was so nice about it. I feel really bad. Well, it's the game of Survivor, man. I went out there to play and so should we rewind? I mean, I know like the first couple of days, the first 10 days, the first 10 days were like, my thought process was so just go in and for anyone watching this, if you're going to be on Survivor, my number one tip is watch a lot of seasons before you go. Cause I could have watched a little more Survivor before I went, dude. Like, honestly, like it helps, but I went in and I'm like, I'm going to play low key. My MO is just, under the radar. Don't just let everyone talk, bring the good vibes. But I remember talking to people afterward. A lot of people, Natalia, she said, Alec, like I really liked you, but I just couldn't get anything from you because you never talked. I was like, yeah, I did. But I never gave. It's hard. Like it wasn't Natalia, but what did Jeff say? He says it's not in a game of Survivor. You can't trust anyone, but you have to trust someone. So who do you trust? And for me, I said to myself, whoever I get good vibes from. It's like when you walk up to it's like when someone comes in a bar or you meet someone in a bar and you're like, what up, dude? Instantly, like, okay, like this, he's cool, or she's like, we'll vibe. And then some people you just get vibes from, you're like, yeah, he's, we probably wouldn't hang out outside. You know what I mean? Yeah. I won't call him. So I kind of like used that. I didn't want to overthink anything, but I think that's why a lot of people said I was like quiet the first couple of days. I was definitely gaming. Allison and I were talking a lot. Jeremy and I were like this. Like, I love that guy. I was so bummed when he got voted out.
So I was
gonna ask, who was your person?
Allison for sure. Her and I. So the day one, it's so interesting. When I remember when we rowed our boat in and we're rowing in, and we get on the island, and then there's cameras there, and you're saying. There's no rule book on Survivor. There's no like how-to guide. It's everyone's first time playing the game. You've watched it on TV, but you don't actually know what it's like. And you just roll up on this island. And I remember thinking like, this is the craziest thing, dude. I'm just on an island being filmed, and life outside of this is still going on. And it was just the weirdest thing. I'm like, what do we do? And then you're talking, you're introducing, and then boom, instantly it was people going off. But I remember the first person who came up to me, because I was so nervous. I was the youngest one on the tribe. I was career-wise the most underestablished the most unimpressive, like on paper. But I remember being down by the water, and Jeremy comes down. He had like his red underwear, his little slip, like his toe sandal thing, and he'd always wear his buff like this. And it was like all flappy.
Oh, like the bonnet one.
Yeah. And he had all these coconuts, and he came up to me like in a panic, dude. This is 15 minutes, literally 15 minutes into the game after all of our like meet and greet, when we're saying, hi, what's your name? Blah, 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 blah. And then everyone kind of scattered. I went down to the beach to like rinse. Who knows? I don't know what I was doing. And Jeremy comes, he's like this. He's like, I like you. I want to play with you. We don't have a lot of time. I got to go. And then he just ran off. And I was like, what?
See you later.
Okay. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then that was it. And then I'm like, okay, this is real. And then I remember walking back up, and I was digging a hole for the shelter. This is maybe 30, 40 minutes in. And then Allison came up to me. She's like, I really like you. I want to play with you. I'm like, because I didn't know that. Like, that's what you have to do. You got to go to people.
Listening to this.
Yeah, you got to go to people, boom, and just be like, and Kara was really good at that too. She's like, you have to just look people in the eye, make them feel good, and be like, yo, I like you. I dig your vibe. Like, let's game together. So otherwise, people go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so for you, it was just like Jeremy, Allison, and like, did you go up to anybody, or was everybody just kind of coming to you? Maybe because of what you said on that boat, where it's like, wait, maybe he's not as threatening, but he still looks like he could be like, the meat shield later on in the game.
Well, I know Allison came up to me. Jeremy came up to me. I didn't go out of my way to go up to people, and maybe I should have. but I reciprocated. If they were, Allison said that to me, and I was like, I totally, like, I dig you, because you really want that. I remember Allison and I shared a moment like night 2 where we woke up and I told her everything, which is so weird on a game of Survivor, like everything. So I was 100% transparent with everything I was feeling, who I was vibing, who I wasn't. And then I think day 3, we really like bonded when we searched for an idol together. And I was like, okay, if I can search for an idol with this girl and like, she's not going to rat me out, like I know I can trust her. So I think it was like those little things. But, you know, if you watch Mike's game and like Mike, his social game, Kara's social game, and I know we get back and she would talk to me because she watched quite a bit of Survivor before she left. And she said a big part of Survivor is little tiny things. Mike, I don't know if you notice this on TV, his faces he would always make, he'd be like, doing things to make other people feel special goes a long way. It's just making people feel comfortable where they're like, I just feel like I can share information with them. And so I was trying to do that. I feel like I have a pretty disarming personality or like energy about me where people, they wanted to come and they wanted to play me. They didn't want to play me. They wanted to play with me, but I think I needed to give a little bit. I think I just needed to give a little bit more back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why early on, this was kind of like, Alex there, he's going to be a player. So we'll give him a confessional here. We'll give him a confessional there. But like, we don't really know what to do with him yet because your game probably, unless I'm wrong here, but your game really didn't pick up until you actually hit the Vuku Beach, right?
Yeah. I was just confused. I wasn't confused, but I was just so like, I was just like hiding. I'm just like, I don't know. I was just trying to stay safe. No pun intended. I was in survivor mode, bro. I was just like, I didn't know. And 2, like big moves don't matter that early on. So I was just like, you know, I'm going to be useful around camp. I'm going to love everyone and and just not be the one that people are talking about. Yeah. It's so funny because Allison day like 2 early on, she's like, don't trust Mike. She goes, I know. I didn't know who Mike was. I think I didn't know who Mike was until one of my confessionals. Because if you listen to the podcast, I had pinned Mike. Listen to how bad I am at this, dude. They go, what do you think about Mike? I was like, oh, he's cool. He wears hats. I'm pretty sure he's like a surfer dude or something. Like, how off was I? And that's why they put it in there. Because then and anyone who knows Mike, they're like, no, dumbass. Like, it's Ned Schneebly. He's some famous writer. I'm like, oh my God. And it was Dawn who told me that. One of the producers, she goes, yeah, that's Mike White. I didn't know who he was until day 3. And then Jeremy would always talk to him. Yeah. Jeremy, Jeremy would be like, he's like, I am playing Survivor right now. I'm playing life. I got 30 minutes of undivided attention with Mike White. He's like, y'all need to shut up.
That's funny.
I was like, oh my God, dude.
I was wondering like if anybody's doing that, because like, especially like, I know like a lot of people who go on Survivor, they want like their fame and stuff. And there's Mike White who like, man, he's legit. That's like as legit as it's going to get, especially on Survivor. So I was wondering like what the vibe was of Mike White. Like, obviously now you don't know who he is, but what was everybody else like? Was there like an idling there or no?
There was like, so Mike, the day 1, I swear, Mike's whole game was planned out before he went. But Mike day 1 minute 1 looked for an idol and completely just separated himself from the tribe. And then, you know, which wasn't a bad thing. People see that, they're like, oh my gosh, like on the beach, we're like, what are you doing? But then you have to think, dude, we still have 3 days until we go to a challenge. That's 3 days until tribal. Like a lot can change in those 3 days. So it's like, dude, more power to you. Yeah, day 1, go look for an idol because it's probably not gonna. I don't know. It didn't. Clearly, he made it to the end, so it didn't matter at that time. But I remember he was hanging out with Jeremy a lot. It was like them 2. And then Allison was like, don't trust Mike. Like I saw him on The Amazing Race. Like I researched him and I know about him and he can get in people's heads. And then Allison, you know, because Allison and I were close, she came to me and day 3 or 4, something around there. And she goes, you know, I'm really starting to like Mike. And I was like, okay, I guess I am too. Right. But Mike was cool. The more you talk to him, you know, we spend 24 hours a day. We have so much time with each other. So Mike was there. when he says he was there for the experience, like he really was. Like he meant it. We had good times out there, dude. It was just fun with everyone. You're stranded on an island, like living where they filmed Castaway. It was sick.
Yeah, that's really cool. So then, okay, so you guys win the first 2 challenges, and like, so everything's going good. When that vote now that I know how close you were with Jeremy, what was that like when you're sitting there and Angelina's telling you, like, no, it's going to be him tonight, it's not going to be Natalie, and how much, like, what was Natalie really like at camp? Was she not as bad? Was she as bad? I mean, let's hear it, Alec.
This is an open forum tell-all.
Yeah.
Natalie was. It's so funny. You remember that scene with Jeremy? He's like, "I'm a psychologist. I'm getting paid for this." All I'm saying is, Jeremy was very sincere. I think when Angelina told me that we were voting Jeremy, it was a shock to a lot of people. I was like, "What?" I was like, "Why? I don't get it." And it was like classic. It was classic Survivor. It was vote out the person who's causing the most grief around camp, which was Natalie. I mean, you saw it on TV. Natalie and I got along. Like, we're still tight. I guess she didn't really like bother me. I just thought it was funny. She was bossy, but she owned it. I mean, she'd just be like, "Alec, come tie a knot. Alec, come dig a hole." On Survivor, people don't like that. For me. I'm just I'm like, for me, I'm like, I'm not bothered. Whatever. But so we went in. I went into that tribal council thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to be classic Survivor. Because you think on the island too, how is this going to play out on TV? You're also thinking about that. And I was like, okay, this is going to be like the classic vote out where you vote out Natalie because she's annoying around camp or whatever word, I don't know. And then when they said Jeremy, I was confused. I didn't want Jeremy to go. I was like, dude, Jeremy's my ally. And then we're sitting on the sand, and Jeremy was saying to me, he's like, he was like, I still remember it, dude. It was like our last conversation on the sand. He was very in tune. He was super smart. That kid knows the game. I think Jeremy was a character that you either go like, kind of like, where he was voted out, or you just make it all the way.
Yeah. He
was so smart. Kid knew that game. But so I keep saying kid, he's a 4-year-old guy. Yeah, so they switched it. And then I actually wanted to get Dan. I remember coming up to Allison, I was like, yo. Of course they didn't show it because it never happened. But I said, what if we get Dan out? I was like, he's the ringleader. It was at like 10 days this point, right? And I knew some people would go for it. So I had me, Allison. Okay, so check this out. I knew. Listen to this, dude.
This is good.
Jeremy was like target number 1 because Angelina wanted him out. But I said Natalie would. I was thinking because in my head, I'm like, dude, Natalie would maybe jump on board and vote Dan out too because she was vulnerable like literally 10 minutes ago. So why wouldn't she go for it? You would think that someone in that position would just be like, hey, as long as it's not me, because I know I'm a target or I'm on the chopping block. So Allison and I were like, okay, how about we know we have Jeremy and Natalie. We need one or two more. Me, Allison, Jeremy, Natalie.
So you need one more to tie it and 2 more to really swing.
Natalia. So I was going to talk to Natalia, and then Allison was going to talk to Kara. Okay. Allison was going to talk to Kara. So we're going to leave John, Dan, and Angelina out of it. And obviously, yeah. And so, and we talk to Allison and I'm like, okay, like we had our plan. I was like, let's talk to Natalie together first. And then we'll go off our separate ways. I'll talk to Natalia. And then Kara, or you can talk to Kara. And it's hard too, that early in the game, you're like, well, are they going to like freak out? That's a big move. So in Survivor, it's running through your mind, like, when do I kind of share this information with people that I want to do this? And so we talked to Natalie and we said, yo, we want to get Dan out. Like, we don't want Jeremy. The only problem is Jeremy and Natalie were just like arguing. So Natalie she's like, I don't want to do it. Whereas I think if that hadn't have happened, she would have been like, yeah, I'm on board. But she's like, no, like, Jeremy's a threat. We got to get him out. We can get him out anytime. And I was like, all right. So it never happened. It never came to fruition. I think it would have been a cool move if it did, like a blindside that early. And Dan was a big character too. So I don't know.
And Dan, did everybody know Dan had the idol? Was Kara sharing that information? Was Natalia sharing that information? Like, because he was so open about it, but
didn't Jeremy like find it in the bag and then Jeremy told someone? I think
that's what I'm saying. Okay, listen, Jeremy knew, dude. I think Dan found it with Kara and Natalia in the very beginning. Day 1 or day 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy was smart enough. This is all stuff he told me, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't think of that. He goes, bro, he's like, why? He's like, if people are sitting around camp on day 3, day 4, day 5, the idol's been found. Mm-hmm. He's like, there wasn't enough people going off by themselves. He's like, so I knew it had been found. And he knew that. I think he was explaining. I know that part was true. And then I think he said Dan was like acting just too confident. He's a lawyer. He's good at reading people. And that he always had the jacket. And so he's like, screw it. And so Jeremy he felt it in the jacket. And then he needed to like solidify what he thought was true. And so when he had time, he went and he snuck in and he grabbed the idol out, which you see on TV. And then he came to me, or he went to, I know he went to me. I'm not sure if I was first, but I remember sitting on the beach and we're like, sitting on the sand. And he's like, Dan has the idol. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yes. I dug it out. I'm like, or I took it out of this thing. And I was like, no way, dude. But yeah, so I think, Dan found it with Kara and Natalia. And then I'm sure they told maybe John and Angelina, because we were a 6 is what you saw.
So like what was the 6?
So it was pairs. So it was Angelina, John, Dan, Kara, and then myself and Natalia. That was like day 1, day 2, day 3.
So that was real when the girls went off and we're talking about, oh, we have these guys like in our pocket. That was actually real. Those relationships were legit, because I know there's that scene where Kara, Angelina, and Natalia are talking in the water where they say, well, we could do this and we have this person and I have this one. And you guys were just being like looked at as like,
we're just like walking around like coconuts.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I would say we were tight. Like I said, I didn't watch enough Survivor. They knew we have something going here. Like, this is a tight 6. Let's keep it this way. Let's do this thing. And me, playing the game I just didn't feel, like I said, it's vibes. I just didn't feel a part of it. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe I should have given them a little more. But I remember, you walk in on conversations and you hope that they don't like switch the conversation, or I'm like, what are you guys talking about? They're like, oh no, we were just talking about, I was telling them how at Cheesecake Factory one time. And I'm like, oh yeah, really? But so no, like, I just never felt like a part of it. And that's why I was like, I'm going to play like middleman. I might have Allison and Jeremy, and then I'm going to kind of just be cool with everyone, like Natalie, and then I'll stay in this little group and try to get as much information as I can. So I was just trying to do that because I never felt like, and I didn't want to just do a final 6. I remember going into the game, that was one thing I said. I was like, I don't want to do this whole, let's just be a tight 6, which is maybe the smart thing to do until you get to a certain point in the game. I don't think it was. I think I wrote in an article where like the dysfunctionally or like ununified something 6. I don't know what it was. I said,
yeah,
we never like voted together.
Yeah. So what the Jeremy vote was 9-1, wasn't it? Everybody voted for Jeremy, or was it 8-2?
Yeah, it was 9-1. I mean, good on Angelina for. I think it got to a point where when it's that early on and when people are so set, I think Angelina, Dan, John, who else? Like Natalie, like Angelina just looked at everyone and she says, yeah, no, we're voting Jeremy. Like, this has to be done. We're not switching, and I'm doing this. And then you start adding it up and you're like, oh, we don't even have numbers. And then like, do I want to try to pull someone aside and risk them going to Angelina, and then Angelina targets you for some reason?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So that's why you just caved. That's why you caved to Angelina, or was there like more to it, or like what was okay? So what was Angelina like at the beginning of this game? Because we know how she was portrayed on TV as just like so insanely over aggressive. But how was she at the beginning of this game, and like why was she so set on Jeremy? Because I get the Natalie one, but why was Angelina so set?
Well, I think that, let me think about this. She was the beginning of the game. She was just like, I think where everything really turned was the whole jury management thing, right? Like I don't know, like that's when her game took a turn. I'm not saying it went downhill or wherever it went. It just took a turn, right? Because people were like, wow, like, I don't know, now you're, I don't know. But the whole Jeremy thing, I don't know where it came from. I don't know what happened. I know that there was, Jeremy talked about it saying like, you guys, I remember he had mentioned, he said, you and John might look like a showmance. He says, just so you know, like this is on TV, and John had a fiance, Angelina's married. But like we were paired off. But Jeremy was very genuine. He's like, how did he word it? He says, this isn't a game move. This is just a life move. This is just me telling you, like, this might look like a showmance. Yeah. And again, this is what Jeremy told me. So take it with a grain of salt or whatever that expression is. I don't know if this is true, but that's what he said. And so I think maybe Angelina got, maybe it was just like emotional. And then so she was like, dude, like, I think she maybe took it like, don't say I'm like unfaithful or I would do such a thing. I don't think that's what Jeremy meant. And maybe it was misinterpreted. And I think that's kind of part of it.
So maybe.
Okay. That sounds like something that like all parties would have a very different reaction to.
Yeah. It was just like, I mean, and then me being in the middle, I was just confused. I was like, well, why? I think we were all confused. We're like, why Jeremy? You guys, I don't know if you were confused, if it made sense to you or, so it's.
I figured either Jeremy was going to go or Angelina was going to end up going because she was Natalie was going to go or Angelina was going to end up going because she was pushing so hard to not have it just be Natalie. And everybody would do like what you just said. Why am I trying to get the numbers to push for somebody to save them? I figured that would kind of be what would happen to Angelina is everybody'd say she's a threat. She's really pushing hard for this. Let's get rid of her now because it's either got to be her way or no way. And that's what we saw once the merge hit. She wanted everything done the Angelina way. And that's what I think you're right. That Elizabeth vote was, I think, when most of the fans, I mean, the Natalie can have her jacket was hilarious, but I think the Elizabeth vote.
Natalie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was so funny.
Like, that's amazing. But I think it was the Elizabeth vote where a lot of the fan base, especially, was just like, oh my God, I can't stand this girl. Like, it's just so phony. So, but like early on, I figured that's why she would go home.
Yeah. Oh gosh, dude. Like, yeah. I think that I think when Jeremy got, to rewind a little bit, when Jeremy got voted off, they highlighted the fact that Natalie and Jeremy were in this epic battle, and this is why he's going home because. And then they kind of gave credit to Natalie in a way because she planted this seed, which I'm sure she did, and then Angelina, she was really pushing hard to get Jeremy out, which it was successful. That was a good move on her part. She got what she wanted. She did it. She executed it. It's also hard too. This all goes down on the island. You're only a part of. You're there, but it's how many There's a lot of conversations that happened, so it's hard to like remember I only remember what I was a part of, which was like when Jeremy gave Angelina that advice, and then when things got emotional, and it was just like, all right.
Well, speaking of things that you probably don't know anything about because you weren't a part of it, but I'm curious what happened when Pat goes down with the back injury, and you guys obviously don't find that out. Was there like any talk? Like, did you guys get any speech? And I know this is like a complete sidebar, but I'm just curious from a viewer's perspective because you're on the other tribe.
Yeah.
What was like? Did you hear anything about the Pat situation? Did you even know what happened to him? Like, do you guys get a lowdown, or was it just kind of like whatever? And I can see you're ready to move over to Vuku. So
yeah,
I'm just curious what that was like for you guys, having absolutely no idea what the hell's going on.
No, so you don't get the news until the next time you see them, which was the next immunity challenge.
Oh wow!
So my initial reaction when I saw Pat was gone, which I'm sure everyone would agree, it was Pat. I had never met Pat, so I pinned Pat as, okay, here's this dude who's similar to Ben on Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. He's this likable guy. He doesn't even have to say a word. You just look at him. He's this burly dude. I like the guy, dude. I want to give him a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw that Pat had gone, I was like, what? You know, when Jeff goes, come on in, guys. He's like, or whatever, Goliath, getting your first look at the new David tribe. Pat, or that's when he said, he goes, Pat was not voted out. And then he told us, and we're like, holy shit.
Because you guys were on the water too. You couldn't have been that far from their boat.
Mm-mm. I know that they, you know, when you leave the challenges, you get on boats separately, and it's like it's done really well. It's like lockdown. There's no talking, and then it's get on the boat. But yeah, so the swells were that weather. Like I was not prepared for that. That weather, and like I grew up. My uncle has a boat. I remember looking at those swells. I'm like, yeah, these are big swells. This is kind of gnarly, and it's a small boat, and you're sitting down there, and so I can imagine like when they like boom and like hit or whatever. It's probably pretty intense. Like his whole back seized up, they said, and he was just like, yeah, and they had to pull. Oh my god. Yeah. So it sucked. I mean, it's a Pat. Like they, you know, Jeff said the season was like built. Like the season came about because of Pat. So to see Pat first one out, I was like,
exactly.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's brutal.
This game is ruthless.
Yeah. So that was just a random question I had, but now we can go to your Vuku Beach now. So you get over there. You're with Natalia, who we all thought you were super close with. You're with who was it? It was Elizabeth, Davey, Natalia, Kara, and you. And this is also when everybody thought that you and Kara were going to start hooking up, right? And then that.
Yeah.
But you'll
that never happened.
Yeah, and then you'll prove that this isn't when it happened.
Yeah. Well, you don't see it on camera. But no.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get to the good stuff.
There's no way they wouldn't put that on camera. There's no way.
Unbelievable.
A lot of people thought that. They're like, oh, you know, they're going to do a show or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, just wait and see, guys, because it's not what happened. So, yeah, we get on Vuku, and so us five, you name the five, and immediately, it's funny because looking at our tribe, you know, we have the numbers, pretty good tribe, strong tribe, and then I looked to my right, looked to my left, and I was like, dude, I don't know how comfortable I am. I don't know if I trust Kara or Natalia that well, and they knew Dan had. There's so many things running through my mind, and then we got back on the beach, and then losing the what's it called, that immunity. The interesting thing is, so a lot of people ask me like, why do you vote out Natalia? Why do you like? So many people are like, terrible move. Some people say good move, but you know, those couple days where I got to Davey and I went like crab hunting, and we're talking, and Davey had told me, he said, you know, what did he say? Oh, he said, because if whoever lost, Carl comes to their tribe. Yeah. And so Davey told me, he said, yo, Carl doesn't get along with Elizabeth. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And so automatically, instantly in my mind, I was like, dude, Carl's on Exile Island. I'm like, it's Survivor. Like, there's not going to be another Exile Island. Surely there's some type of advantage on the island, and he's going to find it. I'm like, dude, come on. Like, there's going to be, what was the one Blood vs. Water, like season 29, where there was an immunity idol on every single time they went to an Exile Island. Yeah. I'm like, dude, there's going to be something. And I assumed, I was like, well, if Carl doesn't get along with Elizabeth, I was like, then because we had lost, I was like, then let's get them together. So I wanted Davey out. I was like, this would be good. I'm like, let's get Davey out. I'm like, and then I had assumed, I was like, Davey and Carl might be close. If Carl found an advantage, who's he going to tell? Not me, Kara, Natalia, not Elizabeth. He's going to tell Davey. So my thought process was like, maybe we just get Davey out. Carl comes back to our beach. If he has an advantage, he's not going to tell Elizabeth about it. If he does, maybe we'll be able to bond with him, and maybe he'll tell one of us. So that was like my thought process. And then I had ran it by Kara and Natalia. Natalia just didn't want to go for it. But it was part of my fault. Like we talked about it after. She's like, you should have been more, you just got to be more genuine. Like, I don't know. She was super pushy, and I just like backed off. I was like, all right, dude, whatever. Like, fine. She was a beast. She was just like aggressive. And I said, dude, not today, bro.
as we saw by her exit, which I'd want to get to the tribal council. I could totally see that. Carl is here, and he wants you to know that he's listening right now. He's in the chat.
Oh, he is?
Interacting with fans. So you have an
bro.
So only say nice things now, because
I was about to say.
Carl's here,
Or just totally shit talk him.
Yeah.
It's today Tuesday, so Carl's he's probably what is he? He's probably drinking a Dos Equis and had he's got his Fireball, chilling at home, sitting on his couch. That's what he's doing. That's his go-to.
That I didn't know that. I wish I would have known that before we went to the.
Does he pour Fireball in the Dos Equis, or does he do them separately?
He did them separate. You learn a lot about people. I knew Carl's schedule. I knew Monday. Monday, Tuesday he worked. I knew Wednesday was his horseback riding day. Thursday he may or may not go to the bar, his local bar, play some pool, drink a Dos Equis, have a shot of Fireball.
So that's a TV day.
Yeah. Friday was date night with his wife. Okay. If they didn't do date night, then he would go to the bar, play some pool, have a Dos Equis, shot of Fireball. If they did do date night, then he'd do that on Saturday. Sunday, he has a 6-pack. He's sitting on his couch watching football, and then he repeats.
So this is amazing.
After you guys get off the island, do you now just text him on a Wednesday and be like, how's the horseback riding going? Because you know his schedule so well.
We talk quite a bit. Yeah, we'll always call, and just especially in the when the season's going on, you call each other all the time. You're like, what about that episode? And we hung out quite a bit, so it was fun. It's weird. We asked. I was like, I wonder if any cast is this close as our cast, because we hang out with each other quite a bit.
It's always
Carl super close.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of casts start off close, at least while the season's on, and then it starts to kind of fall apart. But I feel like a lot of you have a lot more in common than a lot of other casts, which might be what keeps it together. Because there's some casts where it's like, why would these people hang out in real life? But so it's like, of course you're going to hang out when you have the game going on, but then outside of it, who are you really going to keep talking to? But I guess you and Kara, and then I see all these things with Davey, and Carl literally tells us all the time. He's like, if you're ever in Houston, you better tell me. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. He's sincere too.
I know. There's no way I wouldn't.
It's so funny. Yeah. It's so interesting. I think Mike always says it. I remember we got dinner. A bunch of us got dinner with Mike, and he was talking. He's a very emotional dude. He made a speech. He's just like, I want you to know, we went through, I don't remember exactly what he said, but we went through this crazy experience, and I'm just so stoked that I got to meet all you guys, people that I probably wouldn't have crossed paths with ever. And yeah, you realize, I think a Survivor and also traveling, you realize dude, it doesn't matter. People are very selective, especially growing up. You're very selective with who you choose to hang out with, right? You're like, oh yeah, they'll be in my group, they'll be in my group there. So Survivor teaches you you're with 19 people that you probably, other than Kara and I, if we had ever crossed paths, I probably wouldn't hang out with any of these people ever, or look at them and be like, yeah, they'd be my friend. But you go through this insane experience, you bond, and you realize you're like, dude, people are just people. We all have the same needs and desires, and we're all everyone's fun. Everyone can have a good time. And so we just shared some weird connection. I think obviously Survivor was the glue. Yeah. But I think it taught us all that, which was sick. And so back to Mike's. So Mike gives that speech basically. And we're like, oh yeah, dude, that's right.
You're all stopping.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's funny. Well, anyway, we can go back to the game, and then
Natalia's a beast.
Yeah, Natalia's a beast, right? So
yeah.
So when we go back to this with Natalia, and you just told us Carl's not close with Elizabeth, but did you have the fear of obviously Natalia wanted to get out Elizabeth, is what you're saying? That's who she was gunning for?
Yes.
Okay. So did you have the fear that when you were voting out Natalia, when you finally decided to join Davey and join Elizabeth, did you have the fear that by doing this, now when Carl comes back into the game, you and Kara are the next two, no matter what happens? Or were you that confident that Davey was being real with you, saying that Elizabeth and Carl are never going to work together?
I trusted Davey. I really did. And you saw it, and then come the merge, Elizabeth had no ties once we had gotten to the merge. So he was being truthful. It's a bummer I couldn't work with Elizabeth, and it's I made that move. I don't think it was for nothing. That's the thing about survivor? Okay, what if I didn't vote out Natalia? What if I was like the first jury member, second, third? Who knows? Like, she still could have won immunity challenge. You never know. It's like, dude, I made my move. I did it. Like, I stand behind it. But I was nervous when it all went down. I remember being on that boat. I was like, holy shit, bro. I'm about to vote out Natalia. People are going to hate me. And like, coming back to camp, I was confident. I was like, dude, we're going to win immunity challenges. Like, no worries, no stress, bro. We got this, baby. Like, who cares? And we did. So I was like,
yeah, worked out after that.
Because you're still looking at that other tribe with Angelina, Mike, Nick, Natalie. And you have to be saying, like, we're going to beat them. You have to have that in your mind that we lost to them once. We're not going to lose to them again. And we're not going to lose to them again. And you're not going to lose to them twice. And at that point, were you just hoping like I'm in their good graces and Kara's not? Or at least like I voted with you. I made this move happen. So keep me around. Like, is that what your pitch would have been had you gone to another tribal council? Or I'm just curious because everybody was terrified for you that was the end.
Yeah. I would have, told, because Davey, when we came back and we had lost, he's like, yo, I'm down to do whatever you guys want. I don't know if they made him think like he convinced me or swayed me. I really was like, my wheels were turning. I'm like, what should I do? What should I do? I made a point to go talk to Elizabeth, to go talk to Davey. And I made it a point to be like, yo, Davey, if I look at you during tribal council, like I want to get Natalia out. And I knew he would go for it. It's like, dude, it's a Goliath. And so I kind of like just thought about it and brewed my idea. Now, if there was only like one immunity winner and there was 3 tribes, I wouldn't have done it. Because I'm like, dude, Tiva could probably beat us, like John and Dan's tribe. I was like, and then I like may or may not go home because Kara's very charming and convincing, and she could have pulled Davey in. And you see a little bit of that. Davey was sincere, but they might have voted me out because Davey goes, yeah, I'm saying we got to get the challenge beast out before the merge. I could have that could have ended up like biting me in the butt if we had gone back. I don't know. I honestly dude, I have no idea.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alexa. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a bit of a jump. We can go backwards after that. But when you're at the merge feast, I think it's like Allison and Angelina who share a moment, and they're like, "Oh crap, Alec was like the one who did this." Did you have to do any damage control there, or did it just kind of naturally everyone moved on?
I know John was super concerned about it. A lot of people asked about it, and my thing that I said was, I know I told Dan, I said, "Yo, dude, Natalia was blowing your game up back at Vuku, and she was telling everyone about your idol." I was like, I thought she was just a liability, and I just didn't want her to. I kept putting it back on his game. I just said, I didn't want Natalia to come here and be a liability and be someone we couldn't trust and blow your game up. And she told me about your idol. And I kind of used that. And he's like, and Dan was like, thanks for having my back. I told that to John. John was smarter than that. He like saw right through it. He's like, John just had a vibe about me and he didn't believe it. Kara and I had bonded so much on Vuku that by then she was like, I'm here with you. I got you. And then everyone else, the Davids loved it. They're like, well, you're the first person to prove that you're down to vote out one of your own. So I was fine there.
Of course they loved it.
Allison was my homie. She's like, I don't care like who you vote out as long as you're still in the game. And then Angelina was apparently pissed that I did that. she was very like Goliath strong. Like, let's just go 8 and then bing, 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 knock out the Davids.
Well, so what also probably happens, and this is jumping pretty far ahead, but by you doing that and actually voting out a Goliath, that makes you so much more credible when you're going up to Christian telling him, hey, this is who's gunning for you. They're gunning for you tonight. Or when you're going up to Nick telling him things. Like when you're having these conversations with the Davids, they're believing you because you've like actually proven yourself. Whereas none of the other Goliaths, even though it looked like Gabby and Allison had a close relationship, and Christian and Mike talked a little, and Nick and Mike worked together when they were on Jabroni, but sure. it made you more credible because you'd already proven like, yes, I actually mean this. I'm not just voting along the tribal lines, because if that was the case, Elizabeth wouldn't be here, and then who knows what would have happened after that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, during that merge, I think it was Elizabeth was the first vote, and then the tricky thing is you still have. Christian took me very seriously. Like him and I good vibes with Christian. I was like, dude, I want to play with you. Like, let's do this. I'm down. And we did want to play. Obviously, when I wrote his name down, it was like that ruined it. It kind of like broke our trust. Up until the night I got voted out, Christian was on board to vote with me. He was on board to blindside Carl.
Okay.
He's like, but we couldn't get the votes, and I was like, all right, no worries. That's the hard thing, you know, when the whole Christian thing happened, when I first wrote his name down, you just have to. What does Jeff say? He's like, dude, play like it's your second time. Like, play your own game. You do you. Don't worry about anyone else. So maybe in that moment, I should have just been like, dude, fuck it, jump shit, baby. Like, let's go, you know, and not put. And that would have been huge because then Christian would be like, dude, this kid's had my back now twice, or he's had my back. He voted out one of his own. Like, he's on board.
And do you
voted a Goliath, and I don't know.
Do you think you could have cracked into that group? Like, do you think that had you done that, would that have just been like game suicide? Because then all the Davids are just going to vote you out at some point, or do you think you actually could have cracked into that group because there were you know some splits, or I can't think of.
I think I could have cracked part of it. I think I could have had. I think I could have had Christian, and the thing is, I don't think you need to crack into the whole group in Survivor. If you have one person who has a lot of influence in the group, then like you're good. So I was like, if I have Christian has Gabby, and he has, I think Davey, and when I saw the merge, Davey, Carl, and Nick were, I came to realize like these three are really close. So I knew there was no winning there. There was like, you know, around camp, be nice and maybe try, but I was like, dude, these three are so close. I could have worked a little harder, but I knew that even if I had thought, I was like, dude, even if I jump ship and we vote out one of our own, the game switches. I mean, it's a lot of luck. It's a lot of like, let's roll the dice, baby. And like, let's just hope it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. And so, but yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have written Christian's name on, because then like, let's say I have Christian and we're like good. And then it comes to another tribal council. Christian would be like, dude, he'd be advocating on my behalf. Like, dude, I don't want Alec. And then I knew I still had like Allison. She would be easy to pull. Like, we were day one. She's not going to abandon me. And Allison had Kara kind of. So yeah, like I knew I could have, I was weighing out my options when all of this was going down. I was like, but you're also playing, I was playing with people. I was playing with Allison. And so you run, and Kara. And so I was running ideas by them. And so if you're not in your little mini alliances off to the side, if you're not agreeing with each other collectively, then it's like, all right, maybe this isn't the right time.
Yeah, because you guys had that whole Strikeforce thing, which everybody thought was actually going to work out, because if you looked at who was in it, it was a lot of the bigger players on the season, at least from an edit perspective. It was a lot of the bigger edits were in that Strikeforce alliance, and I know Allison was in there, and her edit, you know, took a little bit to get going, but we're all sitting there going, wait, is this actually going to happen? And then really none of it came true. It was just gone. Like, did you have any chance of making that happen? Or like, what was...
It could have. It 100% could have. I really do think it could have worked. I think it would have been the Strikeforce plus. I think it would have been the Strikeforce, and then Nick would have told Davey. Davey would have told Carl. I think if the Strikeforce had voted together for at least one vote, it could have worked. And then the challenge, remember the rap reward. I remember sitting there thinking, dude, this is awesome. It's myself, Christian, Gabby, Allison, Mike. This is 5 people. And we looked at everyone. I was like, dude, let's do this. Like, this is a solid group. Let's game together and let's go to the end. It didn't work out, but I think, and it's so hard. You have 39 days, right? So in real life, if you screw someone over, you have a decent amount of time to make it up to them and prove to them that you're not whatever you said or whatever, right? So on Survivor, it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that because votes are happening so fast, and it's just tough. So once like we wrote Christian's name down, it was just like poof, gone.
Yeah, yeah. And so okay, so now I'm trying to think. Like, okay, I completely lost my train of thought. No, I have
a side question.
Go ahead, yeah, because I have.
That's like me, dude.
It's gone. It's out there.
How many times did you throw up after eating those wraps?
That's what it was. That was my question.
Like that was absurd because they were. I mean, you tell us, but they looked like veggie wraps, and it was like the romaine lettuce epidemic hit you guys like 9 months earlier. It was insane. I've never seen that before.
I threw up. Probably I threw up twice. I went to, you know that feeling when you get like that saliva. You're like, oh, I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
I had that for quite a while. No, those wraps were no joke. They were decent. They were decent sized wraps. I think probably like 6 or 7. But then and they're loaded with hummus and cheese and meats. And then I had all the veggies, and then I drank like a fish. I had so much wine, and it was like rosé, some Pinot Grigio, whatever it was. I was stuffed. So I ate until I was uncomfortably full. So I've never eaten like that. I was a fat pig, dude. I gained weight. If you see me wake up the morning when I go home, remember I'm talking to Kara, she's like, yeah, they all want you out. And I was like doing my teeth. I'm like, I'm just going to win. Or I said something like that. I was looking at my face. I'm like, dude, I'm so fat, bro.
I'm so bloated.
I was like, I'm so bloated from all this whatever I had. I was like, holy crap, bro.
Did it impact you in that challenge? Like, did that actually hurt, or was that challenge just so long anyway, there was nothing you were going to do?
It was so long. If anything, it helped me because it was all that extra energy.
Yeah, you're just
it's God, bro. Unbelievable. Like Allison is like praying / puking on the ground. Like you're off in a corner. It was insane.
I like how they edited my confessional too. I'm like, yeah, man. I said something like, you don't want to get blindsided, and I'm talking game, and then all of a sudden I just transition. And also, I ate a lot of wraps. And I don't feel good.
For your consciousness.
You're like, what? And then it's just like me hunched over. I'm like, oh my God. I knew they were going to I remember the camera like ran up to me as soon as I went over in that little corner. I'm like, dude, I'm just like, I don't feel good, bro. I like looked at his camera. I feel like shit.
What is it like to puke on national television? That's like the worst.
Feels good.
Yeah, clean system.
Everyone got to see me puke.
There you go.
I'm like, oh my God, dude.
Wow.
That's funny. I love that. So I mean that challenge was like the most epic challenge we've had in years. Did you think that it would be Christian who would give you that? Yeah, that one. The one that you ended up going out on. Did you think it would be Christian who would put up that much of a fight? Did you have anything left? I mean, that was like the most ridiculous challenge. As we're all sitting there watching, it was like Alec's probably going to lose this based on how they're editing it, but that was insane.
Yeah, I think I was afraid of Kara and Allison, actually.
Okay.
I was like, dude, I think they may win. Kara was like so solid. She was like all zenned out, eyes closed for the first hour. And she would talk about what she was strong at too on the island. She's like, God, if there was just a challenge like this, because she was like a dancer. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I saw it and I'm looking, because we were next to each other. I was like, dude, she's going to last a long time. Allison was I just assumed that she would last a long time. I wasn't expecting Christian, dude. He stood up there. And it's so funny, that challenge, I went into it and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this like mental whatever. And I'm just going to get in people's heads. And it was all like, I'm not like that. I'm not like, yeah, bro, you suck. Right. I was just like, dude. I just got to like pretend like I'm not feeling pain and just keep telling people like, I'm going to win, bro. I'm going to win. Because if you hear that and you're like in pain and agony, but it probably fueled Christian's thing, and he was able to. But yeah, minute 20, my arms were like this, okay, because they changed it. Your arms are super far back. It's uncomfortable, and then there's that board. There's the board behind you, and my like freaking butt was pushing against the board, so my back was like arched, my lower back. And then your heels are only on a perch this big. So they're like, sticking off like this, and it's digging in. And minute 20, minute 30, I was like, oh, this is going to be over quick. And my arm was falling asleep. And I was like, I remember it was like hanging over, and my hand was completely asleep. And I was doing like a shoulder press. I was like just trying to hold it on. And then after an hour, it started to come back. I'm like, okay. And then like an hour and a half. Yeah. And then I had this wave come over me. I remember like hour 2, because I was hurting. But then hour 2, I had this wave. It's like adrenaline. And maybe it was just a feeling. Like I really thought I was going to win. I'm like, dude, I got this in the bag, baby. And I had this wave come over me. Gabby was hurting. It was hour 2, hour 3, hour 4. And then I remember him saying, you guys have been up there 4.5 hours. And I remember Carl was like, dang, dude, like it was hard though. They were all rooting against me. They're like, let's go, guys. Like from minute 1, like, come on, Gabby, Christian, Allison, Kara, Davey, Mike. No one said
Yeah.
Because they wanted me to go. He was like, dude, if I don't win this, I'm going home. And then Christian just got in my head. I was like, dude, I just failed.
Yeah. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, dude. It's such a weird feeling too, because I was standing up there, and in my head, looking back on it, I could have been like, yo, Jeff, like, I need to cry right now, bro. I'm hurting. I actually really am hurting. Like, maybe it would help if I cry and I'll have another wave come over me and I'll feel good. But like, it was my pride. I couldn't just swallow my pride or whatever it was, right? Survivor teaches you a lot of things. I learned that about myself. It's like, dude, it's okay to cry and be like, whatever. Yeah. And so in my head, you just go over it. It's a very weird thing that you can be like, dude, I can just let go right now. All I have to do is just boom, done. And like, you're out. And I remember it was just like, your mind's just going back and forth and back and forth. And like my mind I just let go. I'm like, done, got off. Yeah. And I was fine, dude. Yeah, I wasn't like I was in pain. My shoulder like is kind of like, I definitely was in pain, but mentally, I was more mentally exhausted, and I stepped off. But you see me step off, dude. I step off and I just walk, and I was so pissed. I'm like, fuck, dude, why did I do that? Like, I could have, if I had a good cry, and if I pulled Jeff over and like to talk to me, and like, because Jeff would have been like, Alec, what's going on? What, you know? I would have been like, let's get it, baby. Like, let's go. Because I really wanted to just make it to loved ones. I was so vocal about that. People didn't believe me. They're like, yeah, sure, dude. Everyone wants to make it to loved ones. But I was like, dude, I just want to get my mom out here. Yeah. I'm like, and vote. Because I knew at that point, I said to him, I was like, I'm too much of a, like, I was winning the rewards. Like, the icing on the cake was the Raps one. Because if you think about it, Carl and Angelina were on the same team. They had never been on a reward. And they thought they had it. Like, they had the person, they were throwing sticks, and we were still getting people across the line. Yeah. And then I was like, I'll do the sticks, and I swam across and I threw them, and I was just like, yeah, baby. And then and they're like, dude, he's got to go. Like, this is ridiculous. That's what Carl said. And so it was easy for people to be like, let's get him out. It's too much. And, but that was part of my pitch. I remember before I went home, I told Christian, like, and then I reevaluated what I needed to say. But one of my first things, I was like, dude, just like, get me to the loved ones, bro. Like, and then you guys can vote me out. But just get me to the loved ones. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's do you think, because it seemed like you had good relationships with everybody. It doesn't seem like there was really anybody who disliked you. Maybe you can shed light on somebody you didn't get along with, if there was anyone. But was it just the challenge threat that is what got them to get rid of you? It was because of that? Like, was there, if you weren't such a challenge threat, do you think you would have went further in the game because of the relationships you built? And did you really have any relationship you could have pulled to move on any further in the game, or were you just screwed?
I think it was the challenge. I mean, maybe people would say otherwise. I had good relationships with people. Like, I brought good energy and good vibes as a currency in Survivor. People want to be around that. Kara did a really good job at it. She had a good, so you don't like, don't give people a reason to talk about you and they won't, kind of thing. And so it was the challenges is when people started talking about me. Otherwise, people didn't, like, no one was throwing my name out there. No one ever said like, oh, Alec. It wasn't until I really started showing people that I can win. They're like, okay, like, this kid's going to be like whatever they were comparing to me to. And then that's what it was. But I think if I hadn't have been like that, yeah, I had great relationships that I could have, like, used. I had Christian, and if I was terrible at challenges, like, from day one, probably would have gone a lot further. I got along with pretty much everyone.
Is that something that you think you, like, retroactively realized when you were watching, or the night or the day that you're going home, you were thinking, maybe I shouldn't have been so good at everything?
It wasn't until after. You get voted out. We go to Ponderosa, and then Carl got voted out, and Carl told me, he's like, bro, he was just like, I told you. He's like, you were the challenge beast. We had to get you out. And I knew, I told them, I said, he's going to win every. And so I was like, oh God. Yeah. I do that. It's hard. Why do you go on the show? I wanted to, like, game out and give it 100%, but in Survivor, that's probably not what you should do. You should lower your threat level and be terrible at the first couple challenges, and then flip the switch when you need to.
Well, and it seems like what hurt you too is that you weren't just a challenge beast, you were also a challenge beast who was making the relationships to win the game. It's like very Joe Anglim-ish, except I think you had more strategy than Joe did. But like people wanted Joe out not just because he was going to win and get to the end, but because if he got there, he would have won in the end. Like, do you feel like that was it? Do you think it was like one of those like respect type moves where it was, if we keep this guy around, he will actually get votes at the end and he could win his way there like Nick ended up doing at the end anyway?
I would like to think that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the final three. Okay, with respect to how the game played out, and then you take me and split me with Nick, and so it's me, Mike, and Angelina sitting at the end. I would like to think so. I don't know. I mean, like I feel like I had good relationships. Also, too, I sat in Final Tribal Council and I'm listening to this, and I was like, dude, I don't know. I'm not very good with my word. I'm not good at Tribal Council. I'm not good at I don't know how good I would be at pleading a case. Maybe that's something I should have said on Survivor. Like, guys, I don't know how to plead a case to the jury. Like my whole thing is I'm just like, yeah, like what you see is what you get. I'm not going to like try to. Angelina was really good at like speaking, and at Tribal Council, she'd say things. I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. Jeff would ask me a question, and I'm like, dude, I'm still trying to process what Allison and I'm like,
I'm still a bartender.
Yeah, I'm like, we would stop. It's so funny. There's things obviously they edit out, but I remember one time they had, a little side story. It was the Davids won that puzzle challenge, the first one. And I think they had won comfort too. That was the reward. And Jeff, he's like, come on over, grab immunity. And they walked off. He's like, all right, whatever. And then the Goliaths are standing there, and he's like saying something. And then he goes, Alec. And he goes, do you think, and he says this question, and I'm like, I don't even know what you just said. And I just look at him, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, man, I'm happy for him. Like, it was like, what are you saying? And then I was like, honestly, dude, I'm zoned out right now. I was like, I don't know what you just said. I was like, can you rephrase it? Yeah. And then he just laughed. He's like, all right, Allison.
That would give me a good answer.
Yeah, it was funny. But like, so going back to what you said, I would have liked to think that based on, so if I had gotten to the end, I would have gotten to the end because I would have won probably some immunities. That would have been a good thing to tell people. And then I built great relationships. So I would have just pushed that. Be like, yo, dude, like I charmed my way through this game. I won immunities. I didn't use any advantages. Maybe I would have used some later on. But yeah, like, and then maybe I would have got votes. I don't know. Like, I don't know if people vote for that. Like, we haven't seen, other than Fabio, which Jeff calls me unicorn, we haven't seen anyone of my archetype make it that far and see how, if they would, right? Like, Jay was like the closest in recent seasons to make it to, I think he made it to like final 6, which I believe he would have won.
Yeah. I think if he sits next to David, probably not. But if he sits next to Adam, I think even Adam has said that Jay probably beats him.
Because he's I don't know what it is. Like, Jay played, in Survivor. It's like, what do you think? What do you guys think wins? Is it like finding a bunch of advantages and playing and doing that? Because I think a huge part in which people look over is the fact that, like for instance, Mike's socials game or his game. He has a very good social game and he built connections. Mike was never left out of votes. He always knew what was happening, which that's very big in Survivor. To be able to be like, yeah, I made it to the end. And like, I tricked you fools. Like, I charmed my way to the end. I didn't have to use any advantages. Like, you guys told me everything. Like, I knew where the votes were going. So that's like a big deal. And like, I think Jay, just based off his like likability and his whole, the vibe he gave off. I mean, if I was sitting on the jury, I would have voted for him. Like, dude, I relate to you. You won immunities. You were charming. So yeah, I think if he sat next to Adam, he would have won.
Yeah, and I don't know who originally said it, but it's like something that's been adopted. It's that whole mentality of whoever won their season deserved to win their season. Because whatever they did right. Like, they did right for like who they were playing with. And I think it comes down to who you were playing with. And I think the people you were playing with might have thrown votes that way. Because if you look at it at the end, Mike White gets 3 votes without making an insanely big move. He never had a crazy big move. And
he almost got mine.
Yeah, and there you go. So that's what I was going to ask you. Like, was your mind made up when you went into that like moment? Because really, we should be asking you, what do you think determines who wins the game? Because you're the one who casted a vote for Nick instead of Mike, and then you just said right there, like, Mike knew everything that was going on.
Yeah, Christian said it best. Christian called Mike the revolving door, because Mike was so. This is some Survivor advice. If you guys ever go on, whoever's watching this ever goes on, he was so tactful with his mood. Like, Mike would sleep alone on the beach every night. And like, I never thought about that, but on the game of Survivor, it's like, Nick and Davey were always next to each other. You have to think, I did a good job unknowingly. I wasn't doing this on purpose, but I would always like switch where I was sleeping. Whereas Mike was like, he was always by himself. So he's like, I'm not a threat. Like, I'm not close to anyone. I'm by myself. Like, I'm open for business, baby. Like, let's play. And he would sit on the beach, and he was so good at making everyone feel like they're his best friend. Yeah. Mike would always say, he'd be like, dude, I dig you. And which I would like to think that was true.
He just lied to everyone on your
season. Yeah. But so Mike said, he's like, I want to go to the final three with you. And he said it to, like, I'm pretty sure everyone would be like, Mike would do so many, everyone wanted to share information with Mike. Mike would he would talk crap on people. And that, when you talk crap on someone, it makes you feel like close to them. You're like, oh, like we can talk shit on someone together. Like, I feel comfortable. So he did things like that, or, God, what else did he? It was just, he played such a good social game. Now I'm losing my train of thought.
That's yeah, that's totally good. That's what we do here. I don't know where I'm going.
That's what we do here.
Yeah, that's the Michael Scott. I just start going and hope that it finds its way, or whatever the hell he says.
I know something happens. But from what it sounds like, I mean, obviously we've never been on the show, but people talk about sleeping arrangements so much, and I know that's a huge part of the game. And when you said that you changed your location, I actually think that's probably like a great move, just like what Mike's doing, because you said like Nick and Davey slept together. So, and we saw how that worked out. So I think like not giving that away that was probably a good call.
Yeah, it was, and I never thought about it. I was just like, dude, I just want to get comfortable. I'm like, this piece of bamboo is digging into my hip bone. Get me off
this other one won't.
Yeah, exactly. So I would switch, but Mike, God, I was gonna say something about Mike's game. God, he was just so. Oh, that's what I was going to say is, if you think about on Survivor 2, if I had come to you, Alexa, I'm like, yo, I dig you. I want to go final three with you. And then I go and tell Phil the same thing, right? And we're three people who don't know each other. And then you go to Phil, you're like, Alex says he wants to game with me. He wants to go to final three. Phil's like, he just told me that. And then you're like, wait, is he? And then maybe you come to me and you're like, what's going on? I'd be like, yo, I told her that, but I really dig you. So that's the thing. Like, you can be risky, and like, you can get away with, at least like with your words, you can get away with a lot more than you think. You don't have to be so like, oh, I can't say this. Like, dude, let it out. Because there's no way of validating it. People just want something to latch onto. If you say I dig you and I want to game with you, they're like, boom. In a genuine way. You can't just go around saying it to everyone. You're like, you get it. You get
a final three.
You're the final three.
That's really cool, though. And I think a lot of people are scared to do that. And I think a lot of people take it the wrong way. And somebody like Angelina, for instance, I think based on her game, and, I talked to her at the finale stuff, and she's perfectly fine. There's like, I'm not sitting there like, damn, she sucked. Like, no, she's great in real life. But like, I think in the game, if she finds out that you're telling other people, it's harder to convince her that you actually mean it with her. Yeah, you're doing the thing. She's gonna kill you, right? Is that what you're saying? like whereas like if you go and you tell maybe Kara that, Kara might sit there and be like, okay, I'm a little wary of it, but I believe him that he is just trying to appease Christian. Whereas Angelina might be like, why would you even say that at this time? Like, you're supposed to be my ally.
Exactly. Yeah. So exactly what you said. You're right. She would have, it was, and that's the thing. You see one person like that, and then it scares you. You're like, is everyone like that? And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. So, and then you watch it back, and you're like, God damn it.
On the topic of Oprah just doling out final threes, who would you have wanted to actually go to the final three with?
Okay. Right here. I would have wanted to go. So there was the 5. Kara and I and Allison really got really close like 4 days before I had left. I think it was like day 23, 24. We're like, dude, this is, and then I felt the same way with Kara as I did with Allison. I'm like, this is sick. So I had made a promise to Allison. I'm like, no matter what, you're the homie. Like, we're going to final 3. But I went on to, like, you know, looking back on Tribal, there's a lot of things. I feel like there's better things I could have, or there's better ways I could have kept myself in the game when I got voted out. For instance, if I had stood up at Tribal Council and made this grandiose speech and said, yo, like, Kara and I talked about this, because you look back on it, now I'm like, I'm like happy with everything. I don't have any regrets, but you think about it, I'm like, what if I had stood up and said, yo, like, because at that point, Angelina and a lot of, like, we were just like bringing her because we thought no one would vote for her in the final 3, which ended up happening. And I talked to Kara about it. I said, I mean, I could have, or I thought about it. I said, I could have like stood up and said, yo guys, like, let's play Survivor. Like, let's vote Angelina out tonight. Like, why are we voting me out? Like, just because I'm a threat? Like, we came here to game. Like, let's uphold the integrity of Jeff's show. I'm like, and let's give the viewers what they want to see. I'm like, let's play a solid game of Survivor. Like, what people hate when people just get dragged along.
Yeah.
I mean, Angelina was like very entertaining, but so my final 3 like would have been, I wouldn't wanted it to be, I wouldn't have wanted to sit next to someone that I said, I know I can beat you. I wanted it to be interesting. I wanted it to, and I told Allison that I'm like, if you and I go to the final 3, I'm pretty sure you're going to beat me. I was like, cause I cannot put a speech together. I'm like, you're way better at speaking. And I was totally fine with that. I'm like, dude, you know, making it to loved ones or making it to the final, that would have been, I just wanted to see how far I could go. But I knew I wanted to sit next to people like even Christian. I was down to do something crazy. If I had won immunity, I would have given it to someone and made fire against Christian. Like, I wanted to do that kind of shit.
There you go. That's the exciting stuff. And it's funny because like you're like a viewer's dream, and then it's like, but how many times are you gonna shoot yourself in the foot, Alec?
I know. Like day one, I like get back on. I'm like, I'm ready to blindside myself, baby.
Yeah. Oh my God. You're Tyson eating hot dogs, and you know he wants to just eat the hot dogs, so he votes for whoever Parvati instead of just voting for Russell like he should have or whatever it was. He votes himself out of the game. That's going to be you. So I wanted to ask this too, and this goes all the way back. But what was Allison's day 1 speech like on the mat? Because we've heard so much about it, and you just said that she'd probably beat you because she could speak better than you. And like I do think that like her point was probably good, but she got a lot of crap for the day 1 like I'm a David, not a Goliath, and then Jeff just kind of like owning her. Like, what was that like on the mat there?
So it started with the classic, you in the front. Jeff obviously knows, we went through castings. He knows our stories, right? So he knew which 2 to compare. You have Pat, who did like, he's like college. He's like, college wasn't even an option versus Allison, where it's like everyone went to Columbia or Yale. And so, I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, but for me, everyone, I think a lot of people thought, some people were like, I'm on the wrong track. I know Angelina was like, well, I don't feel like that. And then, who else? Well, anyways, Allison might not have thought it, but she's like, I don't feel like I'm a Goliath. Like I'm a David or whatever. And then he's like, really? He's like, all right, well, let's compare stories. He's like, where, he's heard it. He's like, where you did this? He's like, well, I'm a doctor. And, but it wasn't like, I think it was just a lot of how you like college for Allison. It was like, it was an option. Like she could go, Pat couldn't. So it's like, dude, she was on the right tribe. It's like, she was complaining because she's like, I'm a David, but like, why, who, it was kind of, I was just like, I wasn't good at like interject. I don't really have an opinion on the whole thing. I'm like, just like, who cares, dude? We're playing Survivor. Like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, did that hurt her view? Like, did anybody else say like did that hurt her? Did that hurt your perception of her right off the bat? Because we know day 1, like Dom did the stupid thing back in Ghost Island where he raised his hand and said that Chris made the wrong move or whatever by doing that. And he's like, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do that? Like, he will openly say that now. And like people, obviously, like that caused him and Chris to have a feud literally the entire game. And I know you and Allison were very tight, but like, was there anybody on that opening mat where they said something that maybe even didn't air that you were just like, God, what is this person? Like, why are they saying that? Or maybe like you thought you wouldn't get along with them and then you yes getting along with them? Like, is there anything like that, or were you just zoned out the whole time?
I was Jeremy surprised me. I didn't know. I was like, it wasn't into, but there was like a couple things. So Natalia was funny. He goes, "What do you do?" And Natalia's like standing there, and she's like, I don't know if this aired or if it made it. She goes, I do process man. She made up some weird job title, and we were all just like, huh. She's like, I do this, and then she said it. It would be like me saying, like, if I was some huge executive of like Rip Curl, like I started that company, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a bartender. Actually, I'm a big executive, but I own a pro. It was like that. It's like no one said anything, like no one questioned it, and we were just laughing. I'm like, okay, like can't trust her. Like this already weird vibes. But the funny thing is, when we selected, so we got the chance to select our 2 strongest, right? They didn't. We had that the luxury of that, and so we selected John because it was like he's physical. Me looking at it, I was like, dude, you guys, we're on a barge. There's not going to be any like running or like we're right here. It's going to be a puzzle. Because I remember we had to pick their 2 weakest, and they picked Christian. I was like, really, Christian? I was like, you guys, I get Christian if it's like a huge laid out challenge and you have to swim and jump and maybe, but I'm like, you realize there's probably going to be a puzzle. Of course, he won, but yeah, Allison kind of. Like if she says she's like she was a target from day one, part of it was, she's got I think she does own it. She's, part of that was her thing. She kind of nominated herself. You kind of point in the circle, we're in grouped up, like who do you guys think should go? And then she was like, no, yeah, like I'll do it. And I think it's probably like Survivor nerves. You're ready to play, and then you're standing there. He's like, all right, who do you guys pick? And Allison's like, and then she's probably realizing like, damn, like why didn't I just push someone else out?
Yeah,
Kara was just like. I was just standing there like whatever. I don't know. I'm too nervous to do this anyways.
Did it hurt anybody's perception at all of John or Allison, or did it not even matter because you guys were just like, oh, we lost the puzzle part? Like, did anybody really was that beat up that they lost that challenge? Like, you guys lost that challenge?
No, not at all. No. John didn't latch onto the whole. When you get to know John, you're like, oh, he's not this. Because I think in people's heads automatically when you see John and when the David tribe goes to their beach and when they're talking about the other tribe, they're like, who do you guys think? Automatically they put John as a physical threat. But then you talk to him and you see his gameplay and there's a lot more depth to John, right? And with Allison, like a lot of her tribal councils, and I think she made it far. Like she maybe could have won, I don't know. But I think she really had to game hard, and part of that was because she held on to that idea of I've been a threat, and she kept saying it. She kept saying, I'm a threat, I'm a threat. It's like, maybe if you just stopped saying, because no one else was saying anything. I'm like, dude, you did a challenge the first day, and that was it. Maybe it helped her. Maybe like if she had gotten to the end, she would have kept planting that seed in the jury's minds. I don't know what her intention was, but I do know like she really kept touching on that. She kept saying like, I'm a threat, which you didn't see her like getting gunned for until later on in the game.
Yeah.
So it's like no one was really coming after you.
And that was kind of weird, and I know you weren't over there, but with the whole Brochacho, Gabby, and then Allison tribe, it was weird because we heard so little from Allison, but we all kind of thought she was a threat because of how it was being played up, that if they were going to lose, Allison was going to get that weird boot where it's just out of nowhere and she goes home. And then she ends up sitting in final 5. It's like, what? Like her edit was wild. It went from like 0 to 60.
It was very interesting. I know they really, her character wasn't really developed until I would say like the end, like the merge, right? Because she and Gabby, you got a little glimpse of it. You're like, okay, she's making connections. Allison was really good at making connections, and I knew when we like split up, I was like, dude, she's gonna connect with Gabby and Christian. And then, like you said, Phil, her game went from like 0 to 60 in a matter of, I don't know how many episodes, like 2. You're like, oh, damn. Like she has, like, where'd this come from?
Yeah. But, all right. Well, I have a random question for you. While we were talking about John, I have to ask you this. What's it like serenading John Mundo?
Dude, that was the funniest thing. We were, oh my God, dude. I picked up the guitar, we're sitting on those bean bags, and everything was really weird. We're sitting on these bean bags like,
already weird.
Yeah, it was already weird. And then it started raining, and John's like, you play guitar? And I was like, yeah, I guess. Like, yeah. And I was just jamming out. And then And then I started singing, dude, and then I just sang it, and John's just like, I mean, I didn't expect it to suck, but that was good, man. That was good. I was like, oh, sick, dude. Where's my charger?
Your John impersonation's the best one so far. I'm just gonna say that right now. That was ridiculous.
Were you doing these out on the island? These are unbelievable.
Wait, I'm gonna plug this in.
He's plugging in. All right. Well, at least we asked an important question before this little break here. You know,
that was a very important question. I didn't think to ask that. I'm glad you brought that up.
That was my favorite part. You know, I was like, that's the bromance we wanted to see on the island, and we never got it. So.
I always had this vibe with John. He told me after, I said, dude, I wish we gamed together because we could have. It was funny. He came after me. The night he went home, right? So the days leading up to that, this is good stuff. So the days leading up to that, he couldn't get over the Natalia thing. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I knew that is because Allison, he had reached out to, I think his relationship with Dan, he was realizing what was going. John's very smart. He was realizing what was going on. And he's like, okay, this is kind of like dwindling. If I want to make it further in this game, I need to like break ties with Dan or keep him. He needed to branch out. And so I think that's why he started reaching out to Allison. And so Allison would come to me and she's like, because Allison and I, like I said, day one, she goes, yo, she's like, John's been talking to me. And I think, she's like, I'm waiting for the right time, but I really think like we could pull him in. She goes, the only problem is he's just dead set on what you did. He can't get over it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, whatever. I tried to talk to him. Him and I had like a conversation on the beach and it just didn't feel right. And then he went to Allison again, like the next day. And she's like, he's still talking about you. And then the day, if you remember when we tried to blindside Christian and they used the steal a vote and then John ended up going home. If you ask people like, how do you end up with that name? Because it's very random. It could have been anyone.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad I had the conversation I did. I sat with Christian on the beach like an hour before tribal council. And this is when Christian and I were still close. And I said, before I voted him, like he really felt like he could trust me. I said, dude, he's like, what's going on? I just said, it was literally just like this. I'm like, I don't know, dude. You know, like John wants me out because of the whole Natalia thing. He can't get over it. And he's telling Allison. And it's just like frustrating. I'm like, it's like, I feel like the game it sucks to be when someone comes after you. I said it just like that. Mm-hmm. And then he responded with something along the lines of, you know what? Like, I never thought I would meet a dude like you and be friends with you, but he's like, you're quite charming or whatever he said. He's like, actually, like, you know, it's okay to be a threat. He's like, I can empathize with that. And then that was it. And I remember that was it. And we ended up going to tribal and deep down, I was like, God, I feel like shit. I'm writing this kid's name down. I felt so bad. Christian. I'm like, I feel so bad. But little did I know, he knew. He's like, I'm gonna be just fine. But that was part of the way they came up with John's name. Was that I asked Christian, I'm like, why did you guys decide John? And Christian was kind of having my back. He's like, well, we put it down. We needed a threat. We needed a Goliath, and so he had plugged John for me.
There you go. So they wanted
like, oh my gosh,
were they going to try to vote you out? Was your name something? Yeah. Wow.
It was me. Wow. It was me or Dan, but Dan had won immunity.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's crazy. So there you go.
So it just goes to show, bro, every conversation in that game counts. Every single one. Even if you think it's like, I had no intentions of, I was glad we were sitting on the beach and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Christian.
Because you didn't feel like you were in danger that night at all, right?
No. And I was like, dude, I just want to have a life conversation with someone. Because I was just frustrated, like in that state, in that point of the game. I was like, God, dude, why does this kid keep why is this so annoying? I'm like, dude, this is swap, like it's merged, baby. Like the dust has settled, like let's go.
Yeah,
you know.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. So out of all the Goliaths, you end up voting for Nick to win anyway. Were there any of the Goliaths that if they had made it to the end, they were definitely getting your vote? Like, because you know we didn't see much of your relationship with a lot of the Goliaths. You were really shown more as like the bridge to the Davids. But were there any Goliaths that were just like, if they get there, like no questions asked, I don't even care who they're sitting next to?
I would have liked to think that I would have done Allison no matter what. We told each other. I was like, you're on the final three. You know. However, when you get voted out and you go to Ponderosa, a lot of truth comes out. Mm-hmm. And people talk about like what's happening in the game. And so it changes your perspective of would I vote for this person? And you like want to go in. I think it's like fair for everyone. You want to go in with like an open-minded. Don't go in with like any grudges. And so that's what I did. And I went in and I knew if we're honestly speaking, I knew it was between Mike or Nick. I went in that open. I wasn't like all three, but I definitely knew I'm like Mike or Nick is kind of who. Angelina, maybe she has to plead in our case, but I was more toward Mike or Nick. I was so torn. And then we went through this whole tribal council, the entire thing. And then I still didn't know. I didn't know until, Jeff goes, it is time to vote. Gabby was like she was very emotional. And she's like, she looked at me. She goes, do you know who you're going to vote for? And I was just like, yeah. And I'm like, in my inside, I'm like, fuck no. Like, yeah. And it wasn't. Oh my God. I walk up to the booth and I'm like, who am I voting for, dude? This is so hard.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know until I got to the booth. And then I thought about it and I'm like, Mike they both played great social games. And then the thing for me was I said, I went out there to play this like charming social game. And I also wanted to win immunities. And so they both had the charming, well, Nick more so like the charming social game. And then Nick, he like won immunity. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, you got the vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Mike only won one, right? He was just
Even though I think like Mike played a better social game, I think you can make a lot of arguments for that. Like I don't think it was highlighted as well. There's like this whole idea with this winner's edit. Maybe if Mike had won, they would have shown how great his social game was. But yeah, Nick, I do think Nick deserved it. He found advantages. He found some immunity idols, which like was cool. Even though before I said, I'm like, you don't need that stuff necessarily, but it's still like exciting. And yeah, I think he deserved it. But Mike, like I said in the beginning, like the social game, and then the fact that he always knew what was going on. Like Mike never went back to camp. He's like, oh my God, you guys, like I can't believe you did that. Whereas a lot of people had that experience. Like Nick had that quite a few times.
He lost his mind at the end of the game after Davey went home.
Yeah. Like he's like, what? Like what happened? So yeah, that was my whole, again, my train of thought when I was sitting there. Like, what is happening, dude?
That's amazing though, because I think many people probably wouldn't admit this, and I don't think this was the case on your season, but I think a lot of people go into the final tribal already having their mind made up, so it almost feels like it's not that the final tribal is a waste of time, but I think a lot of people usually don't know or already do know who they're voting for. So it's refreshing to hear that it's not always that cut and dry.
Yeah, I know Christian, a lot of people. I'm not sure about Davey. I'm not sure about Carl, like how open they were. I know Elizabeth was. Elizabeth had made this checklist at Ponderosa. She's like, I'm doing this. Kara does a really good impression of Elizabeth, by the way. So when she's on, have her do it. But she's like, I'm going to do a checklist and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, everyone was very, very, like, I truly believe it. A majority of the jury was open. They didn't have like, yeah, it's this person.
Yeah. That's kind of, it's always weird. Like I would assume in a season where it really is a blowout landslide, like you know who it's going to be. Like that Jeremy one where he's sitting next to Spencer and Tasha, they all probably knew going in, like, we're voting for Jeremy, and this is just whatever. Like, I feel like
you're like, whatever, dude.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird, and this new jury format, which everybody talks about, is it working? Is it not? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think of it? Like, do you like it? We didn't hear much from you at the actual jury portion.
I think you and Carl are the two people who we heard nothing from.
Yeah. I didn't get to. I didn't say anything. It's so many like personnel. It was so many people jumping in. It gets. I don't know why I got like kind of nervous. I'm like, damn, dude. I'm like, this is really intense. It's like 4 or 5 hours we're there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I could have asked a question. I think what I wanted to say to like Nick, like, I was voted out because I was a physical threat. Right. But I wanted to say to him, like, you won 3 challenges. You've proven my point, which is that immunity challenges are anyone's game. You can't make this. People make this excuse, or they make this. Yeah, they say, "Well, he's a physical threat. He's going to win all the challenges." It's not true. That rarely happens. I think like Ozzy, Culpepper, and who else? And Jay have done it.
Yeah,
like it's that in the scheme. Like there's been a lot of seasons. How many people? You can't make that accusation about someone. I get there was probably some truth in it. Maybe I would have gone on a streak. But so I wanted to say to him, like, yo, because when you win immunity, you're safe. Like you don't have to mingle. You don't have to, wheel and deal. You can kind of just kick back. And so I wanted to say to Nick, you won immunities the past 3 times. It's a crucial part of the game. Were you open for business? Like, did you have a hand in the vote where you're in this power position? Did you utilize it? Or did you just win, kick back and let things play out?
Mm-hmm.
I never got to ask that. I still feel like I made the right choice just because so many people are asking other questions. I'm like, well, that's what I was going to ask anyways. So that's answered. So I knew. I don't know, the format, I think, what was it before? Like one person gets to talk at a time, right?
Everybody gets to walk up, say ask somebody a question or ask everybody a question or whatever, or make a statement. It could have been anything. And now it's just kind of a conversation. And what's happened is at least from an edit perspective, is a lot of the smaller characters aren't getting any screen time there either. So you sit down and Allison doesn't say much, and then you just admitted you really didn't say anything. In 4 hours, you just kind of sat there. But it's crazy.
Out.
Jeff's like, Alec, he did ask me something. He's like, you won a lot of challenges. Like, do you have any questions? And I remember I'm just like, yeah, I'm just listening, just trying to listen.
Just absorbing.
I need to work on that, bro. I remember, what's funny is when I was voted out that night, you walk in, you walk up the stairs, you go to cast your vote, and it's like the confessionals that we see at the end of the episode when it's done. It's after stay tuned for scenes from our next episode. And then it's the music is and it's yeah, man, this is fun. I got voted out.
Great impression.
Yeah. And then it's all the people holding the votes like this and boom and boom. And so when I was voted out, people knew I was going to vote for Carl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how they'll show during tribal council, the music goes and then it's people walking up and writing their names and they'll show a few, they'll show 1 or 2, right? And so I knew they wanted to show mine, or I didn't know that. I didn't put the pieces together, but I knew they're we need to show Alex because it's obvious who he's voting for. And so, but I walk in and listen to this because I knew I was going home. I was so fuck, dude, let's get this over with. I walk into the booth, dude, and I write Carl. I put CARL, and then I look at the camera and I was like, I didn't even look at the camera. I just go, whatever. And I try to pull it up. I go, and they try to, and the producers are like, yo. They're whispering. They're like, come on, dude, you got to give us something. I'm like, all right. And I pulled it back out and I was like, I hope this works, man. And I put it in the thing and I walked out. And then when Jeff read him, it was just first vote or whatever. He's like, Alec. And then he's like, Carl. Carl's just and then it was just my name every single time.
Screw this guy.
I'm like, oh, shit.
Why did you vote for Carl?
Because that was the vote. That was what we were going to do. That was the only other option. Maybe I could have, looking back, maybe I should have gone for Angelina or something, thrown her name out there. But I thought Carl was the perfect choice. He had this Godfather title. I'm like, dude, he's just sits back and he's telling people what to do. I'm like, dude, let's get him out. He's more of a threat than I am.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that. Said maybe he's using me as a screen to what's actually who the actual threat is.
Well, he certainly was the perfect choice because he followed you 3 days later, 2 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. When I saw, I was out night 28, and then he came out night 30. And when I saw him get voted out, I looked at the, because I was on the jury now, and in my head, I'm like, come on, dude. I'm like, you guys couldn't have reversed it and just voted him out in my place, and then we could have seen where things played out after that. You're gonna vote him out anyways. But it wasn't. I think it was Gabby had said. I knew it was because it was myself, Allison, Mike, and Kara were all on board. That was 4, so we needed 2 more. And Christian was on board. And I spent all day working on Christian and trying to pitch as to why it would be good for his game. I said, dude, I'm with you. This is great for your game because I'm a threat. You're a huge threat. And I used that whole thing. We had a great conversation, but of course Gabby told me this after. So Gabby's laying on the raft, right? And I walk up to dude, this is just like my Survivor gameplay. I walk up to Gabby on the raft. She's like, "What's going on, Alec?" And I knew I was kind of going home. I'm like, "Dude, I don't know." Said I can't get Christian to. I don't know if Christian's gonna vote with us tonight to get to blindside Carl, because I had said I'm like, "Let's blindside Carl," and she was kind of on board. She's like, "Ooh," she like perked up. She's like, "I really like that idea," but. When she had gotten voted out, she goes, "Alec, you just need to." She says, "You needed to stroke my ego a little bit." She goes, "You kept telling me. You kept telling me." Yeah. She goes, "You kept telling me as to why it would be a good move for Christian." I kept telling Gabby that. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know why he's not doing it. It's going to be a great move for his game." It's like Gabby doesn't want to hear that. I need to tell Gabby why it's going to be a good move for her game.
So really, you're the reason why Gabby then got paranoid, votes out Carl, tries to make the move on Christian, ends up going home. Like, you're the reason for the implosion of Gabby's entire game.
Whole domino effect on that one conversation.
Oh my gosh, dude! I guess.
Oh my god.
I had something, but I'm totally forgetting it. All right, all three of us have forgotten something now.
Well, that's good. That's.
I had something to do with that conversation, but it's escaping me.
Anyways,
that's what we're about here. Just forget. That's like me on Survivor, baby. I just don't know.
Oh, this was it. Okay, so one of your last confessionals was it was super emotional, and you pretty much said like, this is not how I wanted to go. I didn't want everyone to just pile on me and I go home this way. Now we're a year later. Would you have rather have been the John Blindside and just been totally like taken out of left field, or are you comfortable with how you went home?
Well, being the John Blindside, he went out in style. Like, that was crazy. But he also went out second jury member. So I can't say I'm envious of John's position for that. I think when I knew going on to Survivor, I'm like, maybe I'll be this like, because when the Joes and when that archetype gets voted out, it's usually like people are they're together. They're like unified. They're like, it's a time in Survivor where you don't have to worry about like all these little things going on. It's like people can come together and be like, this is like what we need to do. Like, this is the mission we need to take. And so I knew, I'm like, dude, I don't want to go out that way. I'm like, I want to go out like swinging. I want like people to be on I want it to be like a split, or, like maybe one vote, not like unanimous. So it was like, I don't know if it was flattering or if it was like nice. Gabby, she's like, you're just too, like, you're social, you have relationships, you're charming, you're physical. I'm like, and it was funny too, because we're sitting at Tribal. I'm like, Gabby, I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
I thought she was like voting with me. And then I put it together. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, you're not on my side.
Yeah.
And then Kara looked at me and Allison looked at me and they're like, no. So watching it back, I'm like, all right, cool, great. You can only hope for so much. I mean, the game went right in so many other ways. So the fact that I was voted out, it's whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah. So another question that we just got in here, and I know that Kara was sitting right next to you. I don't know if she still is, but in case she is, who would you have voted for had Kara beaten Mike in that immunity or in that final fire making challenge? And did Kara have a shot had she made it to the end, even against Nick? In your perspective, like if you're watching it, I know that she's probably right there, so this is very calculated.
She's in her room.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Should I call her in?
It's up to you. We're having her on. We're gonna announce. We'll let you give the intro to her. When we have her on.
Well, you're about to say whether or not you'd vote for her. So, do you want her in the room before you tell us the answer?
Baby, are you watching?
Oh my gosh, I'm not watching.
They asked. So this is what they said. They said, had you won fire against Mike?
Yeah.
Why is this your phone on my stuff? Would I have voted for? They said, do you think Kara would have had a shot?
Hi guys. Oh God, it depends on who I'm with. Did they ask if you would have voted for me?
Yeah.
That's
and
what we're asking.
Making it spicy. I would have had to have a really good speech.
You would?
Yeah.
You were good at putting words together.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I'll never know. You better say that. So you better.
What? I have your. No, this is what I think. I try to put myself exactly how I was feeling in that when I was there. So Mike. So yeah, if Mike, because I liked Mike. If it was Mike and Kara, I think I maybe would have gone for Mike. But if Kara had beat Mike, like honestly, okay, I told you guys, like Angelina, no. And then Nick, probably Kara. And I think that she would have, she would have put she probably would have been great at telling people, well, how did you say, like, it's like perception's reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like it might seem like it's like you didn't do anything until you sit at the final three. You're like, but wait.
Yeah, that was my whole plan.
This is my podcast.
Okay, well, I'm here now.
We called you in.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it would have been a really good speech, and it would have been.
Yeah, I think I would have voted for her.
Oh, thanks.
There you go. Well, we're gonna have Kara on the Sunday the 6th at Sunday the 6th, my birthday at 8 p.m.
Oh,
there you go.
Baby.
So
baby.
So there you go. So anybody
are there going to be shots involved or what?
there's gonna
Sunday shots.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna be really drunk for Kara's podcast, but it's gonna be great.
Wouldn't be the first time we've been drunk on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But so Kara's gonna be on then.
It feels like exactly.
I have to like.
He's like, why did you say that?
How drunk was I? Oh no.
Alex is like, you don't know what I
Wait, what episode was that? I want to go watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think never mind. Let's move on.
We can get to the bottom of Alexa's drinking too.
Together. So if you final 4, 5, 3.
Let me tell you guys
We're talking about a totally different season that I had nothing to even do with. Like,
Oh yeah, she can't hear us right now, can she?
Can you hear us?
I can kind of. I'm reading lips, and then I can kind of hear through this. Okay, I'll let you guys wrap up the podcast.
So anyway, Kara will be here. We'll talk, it'll be fun on Sunday. We'll get her perspective if Alec really would have voted for her, or she would have even voted for you. So here's the real question then, and I know we've gone like 2 hours without even bringing it up, and I'm sorry, but everybody
the elephant in the room.
Yeah, the elephant in the room. When that picture came out, everybody was expecting you and Kara to be hooking up on like day 2. And then it ends up being Dan and her who are getting this edit at the beginning. And then you and her aren't getting along at all because you decide you're going to vote out Natalia. When did you and Kara start even like when did anything even happen? Because from what we saw on the show, you think they would have like played that up, especially since like it was the biggest news in like Survivor history preseason, I think. Like that was insane. So like they didn't even bring it up.
Okay, so do you want me to tell
whatever? Hey,
sure.
I don't know how to bring that up tactfully, I don't know how to bring this up like gently.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care. It can't be. They're like, hey, the TMZ thing. I'm like, hey, that's been, it's okay. It sucks that the entirety of my season has been centered around that. Mm-hmm. It's not funny at all, but it's like, I think to myself, I'm like, leave it. I've always been the kid, in my friends I've always been the one getting in trouble. It's always like, leave it up to Alec to fuck everything up. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's kind of, that's just how that's the theme. It's not, but it sucked that happened. So on the island, Kara and I didn't start, we had one conversation. I think it was like day 15, whatever it was. It was after Natalia had gone home. And I think it was when we were going to eat the chickens and they like were ringing the necks of the chickens and Kara like walked down and then I followed her.
So
and we just like, yeah. And, just chickens are being murdered and we got, and like, we had walked down and I was like rinsing off and then I walked back up and we just sat on this log and we were just talking. And then we were talking about just life and it was like a 2-hour conversation. We're just talking about like her life story and like mine. And then it was like zero survivor. We were talking about, dude, I would tell Kara, because, okay, so we had this conversation. It was like, it was super good. I'm like, dude, this girl's sick. And then I went on a confessional and I'm like, she's super rad. And then we had gone and we walked up. We had like eaten chicken and rice. And then we're like talking. And then I was like, we just wanted to be next to each other. We're like, it was a friendship. We always were like, dude, we're just homies. And then I would talk to her about like dating. She'd be like, yeah. So like, have you dated or whatever? We were talking about relationships. Cause you want to talk about like, that's the fun stuff. Like, right. You're like out there. It's like, that's what people love to talk about. Like, I don't want to talk about like your job and like boring. Right. So we would talk about like, I remember I asked her too, like we still laugh about this. Cause I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm like, do you think it's weird if like younger dudes date older girls? She's laughing.
I heard her.
I heard that.
She's like, and she goes, she's like, because I told her, I said, because I was working at a restaurant at the time before I came out for Survivor. And she's like, well, why? I'm like, I don't know. There's like this girl, Amanda. I'm like, she has a boyfriend, but I was like, I just thought she was cute and she's like fun and she has a good personality. I'm like, but like, you know, I'm like, just looking at it. Is that weird? Like if I were to hypothetically date her? And Kara goes, no, like, I don't think so. But she's like, the reason I said that too is like, I'm also, people like have this perception of me, like I'm this goofball, which I am. But a lot of people say like, I'm wise beyond my years. Like I've done a lot of things. Like I'm not an idiot. And so, yeah, we started connecting. And then it wasn't until the very, very last day in Fiji is when this whole romance started, which was they throw this party for you for the people that were on the jury and the final 3. And we're all like having a good time. And I've never told this story either. We're having a good time.
You're telling it to 282 people right now. So
yeah, here we go. We're drinks are flowing. We're playing beer pong. And I remember going in that night. I'm like, dude, it's the last night in Fiji. And Kara and I like always talked about on the island. I'm like, it's going to be so fun when we can like drink together, like when we're back in San Diego and stuff, because we live next to each other. Again, I would always tell her, I'm like, oh my God, you got to meet my mom and grandma. Like we would all have so much fun going out because they're real estate agents too. But it was a friendly thing. I'm like, this is just a girl that I could like hang out with and she's sick. That's all it was. And then so that very last night, we just were like, I guess, drawn to each other. We always like were like wanted to be around each other. There was one point they had made this huge bonfire for us, and I ran in my like room and I grabbed my shorts, my pink shorts from the game, and I threw them on the bonfire. And I'm like, yeah, baby, like, and burning them. And Kara like looked over and she saw me and she came out, and so we were just like hanging out. And then everyone kind of like just drifted off, and it ended up being me, Carl, Kara were like the last ones up. It was like 3 a.m. and we're like sobering up, and then 4 a.m. Carl passes out like on the dirt next to the fire, like on a mat. Yeah,
it's so romantic. Oh my
and it's
God.
like, yeah. And then Kara and I, it was like 5 a.m. We're still talking. Sun's about to come up. I was like, yo, let's pull these bean bags over to. There's like these little like hut cabana things on the sand, right? And I pulled the bean bags over, and we just sat there and we were just talking. And then it was sunrise, and then we fell asleep for like 10 minutes. Right? This is where everything happens. This is where everything happened. Fall asleep. Kara said she like woke up and she was she woke up and she was like looking at me, and then she thought to herself, she's like, oh, like he's cute. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm 30. Like, what am I doing? So he turned around. And then I woke up and she was right there. And then I was like, well, and then I don't know, it just felt right. And I put my arm around her, and then we, you know, and then we're sitting there at sunrise, and then we kissed, and that was it. And then everyone was like, and then we were with each other that whole day, like in the pool together, like just talking. It just was like, felt right. And then we come home, and so like I said, there was nothing on the island. We were just friends. Like that's all it was. And so I think everyone was very confused when this whole thing happened. It was like, dude, we both like, we didn't know. I'm like, it just happened. Right. I wasn't actively pursuing her. Pursuing like the game of Survivor, and then like the last night I was pursuing a good time, and that was it. And then it just like kind of happened. And then so the TMZ thing, we get home, we're hanging out a lot, and we were posting stories, and I never knew the rule. I was, you know, I should have. I didn't read like this email, and I don't check email. I'm not, you know, I'm a bartender. And so,
don't have an email.
And then we're just cruising around, posting stories, but no one was saying anything, which is still no reason to post. No one was saying anything. I'm like, oh, I've been posting stories. Like in my mind, I was like, the cast hasn't been revealed yet. Therefore, Kara and I are just two random people to most people.
Yeah.
To everyone, other than the cast, because they know. So that totally wrong mindset. You don't do that. But and then I posted the picture. And I posted the picture, and it originally had no caption. And then I was like, well, that's dumb. I'm like, well, what should I caption it? My mindset was just like, dude, I don't know. I'm like with this new girl, and she's sick, and I'm having a good time. And that was it. It was just me like so blinded by whatever was going on. I'm just like, I'm having a good time. And I posted, I just put like fuck it. I don't have a caption. Like, fuck it. That was it. And so the article, or not the article, the picture was screen grabbed and taken And so that's the first impression everyone had, is because someone took the picture, they type up this article, and they say all this stuff, and then you blast that out in media, like on TMZ out of all places, right? Where TMZ is like all about drama.
Yeah.
And everyone automatically thinks, they're like, oh, like, look at this idiot. Like, and they and people still say that. They're like, what an idiot. Like, people ask, like, why wasn't he at the finale? He broke his NDA, dude. Like, he posted a picture with Kara. I'm like, dude, you guys would take 2 seconds to like read or like send me a DM message and ask me what happened or something. Like, I'll tell you what happened. But I think people can put the pieces together and like where things started going downhill.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, you know, when we do our fantasy games before the season and everything like that, and we do our bootless game, I said, I have never heard these people talk. You know, we've never heard anybody talk because your cast didn't really have much pregame content. I was like, I've never heard these people talk. So in your words, fuck it. I'm putting Kara and Alec at 20 and 19. I have nothing else to go on. And I'm sitting there going, why would this guy post this and say that unless something really bad happened? And so that was what was in my head. And I won't lie. I mean, I'm sitting there going, when we did our fantasy draft, you weren't picked. You went to the Bradley tribe, as we called it, using air quotes, because we had 2 people. You and B were the 2 we had left over. So you went to the Bradley tribe. And,
by default.
By default. Yeah. And it was crazy. And then what ends up happening, and I said this to you when I ran into you at the pre-finale thing, I said to you, I was like, and then you ended up being my favorite person on the season from an edit perspective, from everything. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, you know, from the bottom. I said it so many times, and I don't know if it was because my expectations were so low, but it was one of those where every time I was like, I was waiting for the explosion, and it never happened. It just kept getting better, and then even your Ponderosa, I was like, what is going on here? You know, so it was great, you know, to hear you actually tell the story and just hear like what your mindset was and realize like this wasn't meant to be like what it came out across as being. And it's a shame that happened, because I do feel like you and even Kara got a lot of haters preseason that you would have never gotten had you just had that not happen and it had people like actually like read about the stuff, because there was nothing to dislike. I think everybody expected you to be a villain, and then it was like, wait, he's having the most fun out of anybody out there right now. What's going on here?
Yeah, we trashed you guys. Like, we were totally like, we were like exactly what Phil said. And then like, I want to rewatch our podcast this season, because each episode we're like, wait a second, like they're really cool. Yeah, and then like when it gets to like 3 weeks ago when we meet you guys and we're like, this is like, think about this versus like 3 months ago. So it must have really sucked for you guys to have to like deal with that. It's completely turned around.
It was. I remember like the day it happened. I'll never forget it. They called me. This is like a week after we get home, right? And Survivor. Like, I've watched the show with my parents. Like, it's a big deal. Like, this is how you know, I'm about to. This season, it hasn't even aired yet, and they call me like, hey, you know, this picture, by the way, like your, and it wasn't the picture. It's like the fact that it was. When people, you know, it could have said like, dude, the picture could have said like, I hate giraffes or something. And then someone could have written an article like, he hates animals, and put it on, and I don't, whatever, right? So what I'm saying is they can get you to think a certain people, like with an article attached to it, and that's all they have to go off of, like you guys were saying. I get it. Like I would think the same thing about someone. I'd be like, well, but the fact that, I remember they called me like, yeah, you're disinvited to the finale along with like the appearance fee that you get. And I was like, damn, bro. And then I thought I would have gotten invited back deeper into the season as like my characters like developed and people see that I'm not like this disingenuous like asshole who's giving the middle finger to CBS, right? So it was a bummer, like that the whole, because that's, you know, the entire, every time you see my episode, like we're going through this whole thing, it's like Survivor, and that was just like lingering in the back of my mind. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to the finale. Although I didn't let it bug me. I'm like, dude, I'm still gonna have a good time. And I went to you guys, I just met you guys, like we were having a blast. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, when you said that you, Kara, and Carl were the last 3 to pass out, I was like, it's pretty much the case at the events too, right? Like at the post finale party. I mean, that was pretty much the thing that I realized. Yeah, I think that was like the crew that was, you know, there. But also, you said you couldn't wait to have Kara meet your grandmother, and I'm like, really?
And what do you think about Grandma Joan? Can we talk about this?
Grandma Joan, I mean, I'm sitting over there, I'm drunk as anything, I'm like dying, and I'm like, damn, there's a box of pizza. I really want pizza. And your mom is wonderful. And, you know, she's such a nice lady. And she's like, have a slice of pizza. And I'm like, I don't want to take it. There's only 2 boxes. I knew you had a lot of people there because I had met your sister and your grandmother. I was like, I don't want to take one. And I'm seeing everybody else take one, and I'm like, I'm starving. Like, I'm going to die tonight. And I pick up the slice of pizza, I put it in my hand, and I go to raise it to my mouth, and your grandmother just rips it out of my hand, throws it in the box, closes the box, and just walks away. And I was like, I just got like, that was savage, and I just got owned by, like, I don't know how old your grandmother is, but I got owned by that lady.
78, dude. And I remember you came up to me, and I'm like, what happened? You're like, dude, your grandma just took a pizza slice out of my hand and put it back in the box.
I was wrecked. I was like, and then I'm like, Alexa, don't worry, we'll just order Domino's. And they didn't deliver because it was after 2 a.m. Yeah. I was like, well, there goes that. And yeah, I was hungover as hell the next day because I had no food in my system at all.
It's Grandma Jones' fault.
Well, your grandma is 78. I think it was 2:30 in the morning. And she appears a pizza like she's an animal.
She gets after it. That was like her. Yeah, it was. Oh my gosh, she got to go to the what do you call it? The finale.
Oh, she was there.
Family
yeah.
In it?
No, so Kara had 2 extra tickets. So my grandma and my sister went.
Oh, that's really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, my grandma. It was hard because when I got disinvited, I had to like hide it from my grandma for a long time because that's all she talked about. Mm-hmm. She's like, "Oh my God, Alec, like I this is all I think about. You know, we would always talk about the finale." She's like, "You know, I'm going, right? I'm going. This is in May. Like it hasn't even started. May, June, July, October, September, whatever." Then it starts, and it was just like, dude, I'm not going to the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I knew it would work out. I'm like, someone's going to give her a ticket. Like, let's not dwell on it. Let's not think about it now. Like, let's cross that bridge when the time comes. And it worked out. Kara's like, I have an extra one. We got 6. So Kara's like, take mine.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's good that all worked out. But yeah, go ahead.
You guys went too, right? Yeah.
We were there, yeah.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, so we ended up getting 2 tickets from one of my friends who works in like art. She does like all like she designed that, or not designed it, but she had a hand in doing that whole final tribal council set that was actually there at the finale. And so she was able to pull us 3 tickets. It was like, I didn't think it was going to happen. I was like, there's no way. So cool. Yeah, it was really cool. But you know, I like to dwell on this slice of pizza, man. I want to bring it up every chance I get.
Well, you know, it was a great slice of pizza. That's a huge thing.
It was delicious.
I just like to imagine like back at the hotel now, you guys like you all eat the pizza and there's one slice sitting there and everybody's like, nah, I'm full, just leave it there. And like that was my slice.
Just throw it out.
Yeah, just toss it.
Phil said, he goes, I just like to imagine you guys all back at the hotel enjoying the pizza. He's like, and there's one slice sitting in the box. We're like, nah, I'm full. You guys, nah, I'm over it. He's like, just throw it out. Alex's like, just throw it out. We're like, oh, didn't Phil want one? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
No starving children anywhere.
Yeah. I'm like, Phil Schmill.
I saw the whole thing happen in slow motion, and I walk over and I just see Phil with the pizza, like, you know when you're like ready for the bite and you're like going for it? Yeah, it's like sogging over with cheese, and he was like about to take it, and then it gets ripped out. I was like, I felt again just in the middle of conflict. I was like, I'm not going to say anything.
It was close. It was as close to like eating as you can get without having pizza actually in your mouth. It was insane. But hey,
God, dude.
You know, that's it. Well, I'm glad she got to go to the finale though and everything like that. That's cool. And you know, it's like a crappy situation, but you know, it's cool that like you handled it super well, because I was like, damn, like Alex, the guy I want to talk to the most right now when we were going to the pre-finale stuff. And I think as soon as you walked in the door, I saw you. I was like, that's the guy I need to talk to. Like this second. Like, I walked right up to you. Like, no, stand right here. We're having a conversation. But it's
you're ready.
Yeah, but it's cool. Like even like in that moment, like you didn't know who I was at first. I think your mom was like, oh, like or whatever. And then you were like, you do the podcast. But it was like one of those where like even when you didn't really know who I was, you were still like just like, this is what happened, man. Like it is what it is, and like there's not. And you were just like you didn't let it ruin your night or your week or like whatever. And I thought that was really cool, because I'm sure there's some people who, if it would have happened, they would have been like, well, screw this, I'm not even going, or like whatever, you know. But so
it was, you know, we had a good time. So I hung out with, because you guys know Jeremy wasn't there, so I had a good time. Yeah, like I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna let it ruin mine. I mean, of course you want to go to the finale. That's like a huge. I'll never get that back, dude. Like I'll never be able to say I went to the. If I ever go back, I'll be like, yeah, I went to the finale. But it's like going to the finale with that cast, and so you miss out on it. But I mean, my mom she's always like, everything happens for a reason. Whatever that reason is, I don't know yet. But yeah, like it's like, dude, we had fun. Like we went to those 2 parties that were like that was the real fun, baby. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know? So God, what was I just gonna say too? I can't remember. Just keep up with the theme, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, but that's what it was. And no, I could not have been more wrong based on the early take on both you and Kara, because I'm sitting there and I'm just like, plus like it didn't help, like in the picture it looked like the ultimate like skater, like kind of like it was like the ultimate like picture of like these guys, these guys are gonna be awful.
I had like a hood on,
and it's like Kara like looking like the perfect young blonde who was like cast on Survivor because she was beautiful. Like that's what you're thinking in your head at that time. You're like, what is going on? And then of course, like once it starts playing out, you're like, what? this was these two who did this, but
everyone's like confused, like, huh?
Yeah, you just hope that like the community. I think the community did turn around on it though, because I think a lot of people are like, I think you started to build up that fan base, and people were like, why are they editing him so well? Like, why is this so good? Like, shouldn't they have like thrown him to the wayside? But they couldn't do it.
Yeah,
they did. I know people did say that. They're like, why is he getting? Yeah, everyone thought they're like, he's gonna get the purple edit, which I didn't know what that was. I'm like, what's the purple edit? I'm like, did I win? Is that good? Yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm a bartender. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then people started saying that. They're like, dude, he's getting a decent edit. I was like, damn right I am, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. I like the conspiracy theory. Kara won, and that's why they were mad at you, is because you posted a picture of the winner. That's what everybody was.
I was buying into that a little bit too. I was like, that does make some sense, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Dang.
There's some wild theories out there.
I have a question. So you guys I know you would. Have you like applied? Are you guys going to be on Survivor or what?
We've both applied.
We both applied. We went to a casting call, which I think like I don't know how much pull those have. From what I've heard, like actually sending in a video has more legs. I've sent in a video, and I know Phil has too, but no, we're getting ghosted.
Damn.
Yeah. How did this is a question that everybody asks, and I always like to hear this too. How did you get casted? Talk about your casting process, and then how did you prepare?
Okay, so casting process. A lot of people ask me this too, and so I haven't answered any. Well, some of them. So for everyone listening, I would say people. It's gonna sound so. They're like, that's the casting process. That's how you got cast. Be yourself. That's all you have to do. I mean, I made a video, and I knew I had some editing skills. And so I made it like catchy. I'm like, I want to grab their attention from the beginning. So, because they can watch 10 seconds and be like, this person, there's something. They're very good at it. But going through castings, I was so nervous, and I'd be like, oh, like, what do I say? Because there's archetypes, right? So I was like the typical kind of, I bartend, and I'm, I just flirt, and that's it. And so it was like, they kind of say like, in the castings, you gotta be able to have banter and just be like, boom, and like throw it back. And so in the beginning, I said to myself, like, there's no way. I'm like, I can't keep up. I'm like, maybe I'm not ready for this. But then like, the more I just like chilled out, and I was like, dude, fuck, like I'm here. Like they just want me. And so I remember I was talking on the phone with my friend, and he's like, what up? I'm like, dude, I'm at castings right now. I'm like, I just left this fucking interview, and I'm like, this is bold, dude. I'm like, it's not going well. Because you'd leave these interviews with like Lynn Spillman. It's gnarly. It's so intense. And I'm just like, she's asking you questions. She's like, well, what have you done? Well, why would someone, she's like, I remember I said, I'm like, yeah, I'm just like a goofy kid, dude. And like, she's like, well, why would people want to align with that? And I'm like, oh, I don't, and it gets to the point where you're like, how do I bring Alec and still try to like think through these questions? It was tough. And then as soon as I just like relaxed and just going back to the theme, said, fuck it. Like, I don't care. Like, they need me, bro. And so I was just like, yeah, dude. Then it was just like, everything was like uphill from there. Cause then I would just, one of the interviews, I'd be like, what up, baby? And they would just be like laughing. And then we would just start laughing. And then like the whole interview was just laughing. Like that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But so you have to, I think, make a video. And then, you know, you think about Survivor, we are, as like the contestants, the narrators of the story. So tell a story, like show them that you can tell a great story. I think a lot of people do videos and they're like, yo, what's up? I'm from here. I do this. I'm athletic. It's like, dude, everyone's athletic. All right, play. Okay, tell us why, like, tell a story. And so like, that's like what I did. Show your personality. Like they want to see, I think like put yourself in a confessional or something. Like imagine it's like a confessional. Like how are you going to be? Tell a cool story, do something. And then I think once you get in the door and then you're like, okay. And then you're set. Then you go to those like interviews and just hopefully they call you. It's a gnarly process. It took like 6 months because then you go through rounds. I didn't get called until like a month before. They're like, pack your bags. I was like in Dublin, Ireland. I'm like wasted, dude. They call me. It's 11:30 at night. And I'm like, hello. And she's like, yo. She's like, I don't know how you did it, but you're on season 37. I'm like, I'm with all my friends. I'm like, holy shit. They're like, what? I'm like, dude, I want to be on Survivor.
I love the backwards compliment of I don't know how you did it. That's like great.
Yeah. I think it's because I actually struggled quite a bit getting on. I only applied once. I made a video and then like I submitted it. I went for a surf, came back 2 hours later, and I was like, dude, Ryan, I'm like, I think I just got an email back. He's like, shut the fuck up. And I was like, swear, dude, look at this. And then like it all started from there. But, you know, like in the beginning steps when it was like just phone calls and stuff, I struggled because I always felt, this is a huge thing, is I treated it like it was a job interview. I'm like, I was trying to say the right thing. I was trying to give the right answer. I was trying to give the Survivor answer. When in reality, it's like, dude, they don't like worry about Survivor when you get on the show. Play Survivor when you're there. It's like they just want to like, if you curse. Like if you're like JP and you're chill, be JP and be chill. But don't try to be like if I had gone in and I was like, I'm gonna try to be like Joe or I'm gonna try to be like Ozzy or whoever, I don't know, and try to emulate that. Let's see right through it. Like, dude, we don't want that. You know what I mean? I said that in my Ponderosa. I'm like, bro, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Just do your thing. Yeah. Just be you. Because then be like, okay, I dig that. Because there's a lot of people probably who try to be some type of character.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people struggle with, and I know the hardest part for me is honing in on which archetype you fit best into. Because I think like especially like you have there's so many well-rounded people. Like like you're not just the surfer, bro. Like there's other layers to you. But I think it's about finding which archetype they want you to be and being able to play into that. And I think that's where a lot of people, and including myself, really struggle is like, you want to tell them everything. And then you're like, but where are they, like, what's their story going to be? Like, how they did with Pat on day one. It's like, this is the guy who came from this, college wasn't an option, and boom. Like you can say that, what's your like log line or two sentence, what sums you up in 2 sentences. And I think like, you want to say so much, and then it ends up being like, I actually just said nothing, and they don't give a shit anymore.
You like send it in, and then you try to email CBS. You're like, wait, I just submitted a video. I need to redo it.
Yeah, I need to redo. Delete that one. Here comes my other one.
Don't pay attention to that one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that's true. You gotta. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You finish your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna go off what Phil's. Yeah, it's like you gotta hone in on that archetype. I think you don't need to be someone, but hone in on who you think you play like, or who you might the archetype may fit into. That way, they can be like, okay, and then because you might be an archetype, they can fill an archetype, but it doesn't. The archetype doesn't bring the same characteristics, like use the same layers. Like I think my archetype, I brought more than just like the and then I just went through, like I brought some strategy to it too. So find your archetype, but you can bring different things to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said, in the first 10 seconds, they're going to know if it's a yes. They could probably tell if it's going to be a yes or a no. How do you woo them in the first 10 seconds? And then in your last like minute or whatever, start talking about it, start talking about some other stuff, But yeah, that's cool. No, it's cool. It's always cool, like when people do apply, or like Carl told us his story, which is insane. How they just like found him on Instagram. That's insane. So you just never know. It's wild. Like, and I think, you know, what ends up happening is I think people overthink it so much instead of, like you said, just do it. Just go do it and make it happen. Like, be yourself and do it. And I think so many people overthink everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to.
For sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah, you're like in your head the whole time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you get this phone call. You're drunk in Dublin. You hang up. I'm assuming you go back to your night, but you wake up the next morning and it's however long until you fly out. What did you do over the course of that period of time?
Okay, so I'm wasted in Dublin. I'm doing Irish car bombs.
Beautiful.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I had this friend Josh this friend Josh a long time ago I met in Thailand. Him and I are like travel buddies. He's from the UK. He's like, in his accent, he's like, yeah, mate. He's like, you fucking deserve this, bro. Like, he was so amped. And I had talked about it. I told like a few people. But yeah, so then I go home and I actually called my mom too. I called her like that next day. And I said, hey, what's up, mom? She's like, yo, hey, how are you? And because my mom didn't think I was going to get on. She's like, I don't know. Like, and I was always like, dude, because I had gone through the castings and now you're just waiting. You're waiting. I had ended in like September, October. So now I have like November, December, January, February. It's like 4 months and I'm waiting. And I'd like wake up every morning. I'm like, no, I'm going to get on. I was just like in my head, I'm like, no, like I'm on. I knew I was like, I'm on. I would tell my parents, I'm like, I'm on. Yeah. Like I put my life on pause. Because I was working, I was bartending, and she's like, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to get a job? I was like, well, no, I leave for Survivor in March. She's like, well, you don't know for sure. I'm like, no, I am. And so, you know, I came home, so I called her. She was like at Starbucks. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm at Starbucks. Why? I was like, well, guess what? I'm like, you're going to see me on season 37 of Survivor. And she like started crying. She was all stoked. But and then I get home and it was just, it was, I started with an IV drip from all the drinking from my travels. Right?
Great start.
Love it.
and then I didn't prepare like I probably could have, but physically I was hanging out with friends, preparing, like, you know, the challenges, or anyone can do the challenges and be decent at them. Anyone right now watching this can get up, and if they went to Fiji and participated, like you guys have done the challenges, right? Some of the so like, you know, like it's not so insane where it's like you have to be on a strict regimen, 6:30 a.m. oatmeal. You got to do like workout. You know what I mean? But then, like the social aspect, that's what you can prepare for. That's what I should have prepared for. The best way to prepare, I would say, watch Survivor. Like pick your archetype, or pick someone. If you want to go out there and play a really good social game, pick someone who played a great social game, like season 29, Natalie. Watch her game and watch exactly what she did and study that shit. Because that's the best. I mean, that's what's going to help you, I think, the most. Otherwise, you're just going to like overthink things. You're like, well, what if I'm like this or that? It's like, dude, just watch Survivor and then just go out there and just groove it out.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, so we're over 2 hours. I know you probably can't believe it, right? We're at like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, you were surprised that we had Carl for 2 hours and 20 minutes, but we're
I know, yeah. What are we at? 2 hours and what?
We're like at like the same length. We started a little bit before 8. It's 10:20 right now on the East Coast.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
We just wanted to prove to you that you could get to this point.
Yeah, well, you guys took me there. You know, it's all your great questions, and you know, and I just love hanging out with you guys via FaceTime.
There you go.
Right?
In real life.
So I have an idea. So what if the perch challenge lasted 6 hours? So what if right now we do the FaceTime for 6 hours and 1 minute?
Oh yeah.
Kara's like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, if I was on the West Coast, man, I'd be totally down. But you know, that puts me at 2 a.m. Nah.
I was like, bro, he's like, I asked you to do this podcast, maybe an hour. I'm hungover. I want to go to bed.
I regret
I want to eat a slice of pizza right now.
I'm starving.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to work for the first time since I've seen you guys. So if I like roll in tomorrow and everyone's like, why are you so tired? It's like, because I've been doing a challenge until 2 o'clock in the day. I've been working like 3 weeks.
Yeah, you guys are. I forgot that. No, I'll let you guys go unless you have any more questions or unless anyone else does. Watching. I didn't see any of these comments, by the way, which was actually, I think, nice because I could just focus on your two beautiful faces.
The chat wasn't popping up for you on the side there?
Oh, no, I can rewatch it, though. I'll see what they were saying.
The chat was getting a little weird.
Yeah, they were getting mad at each other, but surprisingly, nothing really bad about you, which is always crazy because we normally get ripped on like crazy. So, yeah, it's good time. Unlike Alexa, I don't have work, so I'm just like whatever. I could talk for hours if you want.
Well, I can totally empathize with you. I can relate to that. You know, I don't really work much myself.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling.
I actually, this is the year, my New Year's thing. I'm like, this is the year that I finally, because I traveled a ton. We're getting off Survivor, I can quit. But yeah, this is the year I'm gonna like, dude, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna say no to shit. Like I worked on New Year's, bro. I'm like bartending in San Diego. I moved here. I'm like starting my own business. I'm like, no, this is the year.
There you go.
No more fucking around.
Maybe like every now and then.
Maybe a little bit. You know, here and there. You know, maybe like every other week. I call into work sick.
yeah, exactly. But not every day. You know, just like every now and then.
Well, you said. Well, I mean, we can end with this. You said you just started your own business. I remember seeing that on Instagram. Hopefully a couple thousand people are going to listen to this. If you want to plug it, go right away. Tell us what this business is.
Yeah, well, so I came because I always wanted to start a business, and it was just, dude, Survivor teaches you to just go for it, bro. Like, don't quit. And I think it was that perch challenge, dude. But so I came home. I'm like, I want to start a business. I want to do my thing. I want to move to San Diego. I want to network. And so I came down here, got a job bartending downtown San Diego, which is really hard. Like made some connections and got the job. And so I'm using that as like a means to a greater end, which is like I go into work every day and just kind of like make it a goal to talk about the business. And the business is it's in place to like, so it's called Head and Heart. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be a clothing company. I'm starting with tees, just like 2 basic tees, but everything's in California. It's like a great product. And we're doing, t-shirts, and it's like garment dyed, vintage. I have one on actually. It's pretty sick. I have like this little red stitching right here. We put a message in the back right here on every shirt. Like our logo is super tight. Look at this. Look at this, bro. Head and Heart.
There you go.
Yeah. And so the brand is like, I'm like, it takes 2 things. Because I've always had these business ideas, but I never do anything. It's like you have an idea and it's like, oh, it's cool. And then a week later, friends are like I get shit from my friends because I'll call my buddy Tommy. I'm like, dude, I have this business idea. I'm like, what if people could lease out their car space and people could like advertise on people's cars? Right. And he's like, he's like, that's a good idea, bro. He's like, it's definitely within the top 100. But because I've given him so many ideas, I was like, fuck you, dude. But so I was like, okay, it takes perseverance to do something, which lies inside your head. It takes passion, which lies inside the heart. And I say, if the 2 match, you're unstoppable. It's like when I got on Survivor, dude. Perseverance, like the passion, and like if you can think it, if you have the passion and they match, like you can do whatever you want. So that's like the idea, like the story. It's there in place for like other people to be inspired. Along with, I want to do like outreach, art-driven outreach programs. I'm donating a lot of the money back to host these kind of like pop-ups or collaborations where ultimately it leads into like me traveling to these countries that I've fallen in love with, like Bali or Cambodia, and giving like these kids this opportunity to participate in like this creative outlet, whether it's drawing or like building things, and ultimately taking back, like, let's say I take a kid's design and I print it on a shirt. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a really great product. I'm making it in California. It's handmade. And it's like a great shirt. It's going to last for like years. You can wash it and dry it. You can fucking, who knows, clean the toilet with it. It'll be fine.
I don't know if we want that. That's bad.
Yeah. And it's cool. I think it's super stylish. And, but yeah, it also has this really cool story behind it that I want people to hear, which is something I'm struggling with now. I'm like, I majored in business. And it's kind of ironic. I'm like, I need to learn about like marketing. I need to like, how am I going to get people to understand my vision? Yeah. But yeah. That's cool.
That was perfect.
Until you're gonna clean the toilet with the shirt. It was like, yeah, I'm sold. But now I'm like, damn, I have enough rags. I don't know if I need that.
Now I'm like, I imagine the infomercial. There's like 5-minute long infomercials where there's a guy scrubbing the toilet and it's in black and white and it's like, does your toilet scrub stuff?
Oh my god. I have 450 shirts sitting in the back of my car right now because I'm like ready to go. Like everything's in place. The only thing that's not is I'm waiting on these like packages from China to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I'm like ready to launch, dude. I'm hosting like this event, which I'm like meeting with some people. We're gonna do our first event, I think, in San Diego, and it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be like I'm gonna have my clothes there. I'm gonna have like other local businesses. We're gonna have like some coffee, food, have like a chance for people to like participate in like art, whatever it is, more or less just to like get it out there. It's gonna be like the official like or unofficial launch. Yeah, and then I'm just gonna go live on the site, dude, and just like that's gonna be it. I'm gonna be working, bartending, and then just trying to like hit the ground running and pound the pavement and try to sell these shirts. Like, right? Like, I don't know.
That's good marketing. See, that's good. To do it that way, to have like an event. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I know. God, I'm so smart, dude.
Yeah, that's you act like you got nothing going on, and then it's just like, oh, and by the way, I'm doing all this shit that's like everything I said I wasn't good at, and it's like, oh, okay, all right.
And you don't know who you're going to vote for to win, but actually, you're just thinking about the sex business idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, oh, oops, oh yeah, Scribble's coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped.
That's cool. Well, that's good.
So are you gonna buy a shirt?
Am I gonna buy a shirt? How can I buy a shirt? Well, that's what I need to know. I need to know how can I do it.
My toilet needs some scrubbing.
It's going to be online. So right now I'm doing everything online other than headandheart.com. Heart is HART. So heart is spelled that way because it's all hand-drawn artwork on the shirts. But yeah, so it's all going to be online, headandheart.com. And then, which is like on Instagram, it's like you can get there through my personal account. But and then a lot of it's I thought about like brands, and I want a lot of my mark. I don't want to be some business that like you're scrolling through Instagram and you're like, oh, that's cool, another clothing brand. No, like I want to a lot of, if you think about Patagonia, I'm like really inspired by them. It's like they were able to figure it out before the days of social media. So I want a lot of my marketing, and I want a lot of the because I don't want to be a volume company, right? So I want to go face to face. I want to stand out in San Diego, like in the markets, and like pull people aside, be like, yo, like come check this shirt out. Like, let me tell you the story, and build like loyal customers. Even if it takes 5 years, I don't care. I don't want to sell 10,000 shirts. I'm fine with selling 100 a week. Like that's perfectly fine. Yeah. But I want it to be something like because I am so inspired by all like the traveling and like the experiences and like Survivor. I'm like, dude, I want to do something greater than just clothing. I want it to have like a cool meaning. So it'll be cool.
I'm on the website right now.
Yeah. So the website's not live.
It says music password opening soon. So I'm like, I'm not. So to answer the question, I'm not buying a shirt tonight. That's for sure.
He's like, you're striking out, bro.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm here.
Oh my god. Yeah, it'll be like a week. I'm gonna launch in a week. Everything will be live. Product will be on there. And that's it.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All
there
right.
we go, baby.
There we go. So check out Head and Heart in a week. And
not right now though. Don't do it now.
It was like, yeah, anyways, just check out Head and Heart in a week. I get it.
Can't do it now. But anyway, I don't even know. It's like one of those where I'm like, all right, I don't know how to come back from that. I don't have any cool shirts or anything like that. So it's like, how can I relate this back to Survivor? You know,
Survivor specialist.
Yeah. On site too.
Is that what we're doing? We're circling back to Survivor. Okay, so Survivor.
We can. I mean, hey, I don't know, man. Wherever these take us, that's where we
we've
go.
officially clocked you past Carl, so you won.
Yeah.
Oh, am I the longest ever or no?
No, Johnny Fairplace was insane.
Was his longer than Troysian?
Johnny Fairplace is like almost 3.5 hours.
Those two were something. I think I had to take a snack break at one point.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah. And Troysan's was another one where I was super hungover, and I actually had to text my roommate to get me food because I don't think I would have been able to make it there because I was like about to pass out. I felt like I was in the middle of a challenge doing that one, and it was just sitting here talking to him early in the morning. But I had to go live at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. It was like 8 a.m. my time because he was on the whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to die today. There's no way.
Oh my God.
This. But anyway,
Phil's always Phil's always just conveniently, he's really hungover before he's like. I want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know when Phil It'd be so funny if I was on the East Coast, like in the bar. I just imagine Phil just getting wasted. I'm like, bro, aren't you doing a podcast tomorrow? You're like, yeah, dude, whatever.
Yeah, it'll be great. Well, it's hard, I mean, it's like nothing else to do at night in LA. So it's like what everybody does, at least the part of LA I live in. So it's like that's what everybody does. I'm like, okay. I'm like, Alexa, we can do it at that time, but
we always. Well, I mean, when we're doing it with Phil's probably done as early as like 7 a.m. before. And then on the flip side, when we talked to Kellen, I was doing it at my office and I got home at 5 a.m. because we were podcasting like into the evening. So it's always a disaster.
Oh my gosh.
Good time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That wasn't our longest podcast, but we talked to her offline for 3 hours after that.
It was so long.
And I was like at my office and all the like janitors are walking by like, is this girl working? It's 3 a.m. on a Wednesday. Like, what is going on?
Oh my God. You guys, I'm saying, I don't watch a lot of podcasts to say that, but being on the season and doing the exit interviews, I've watched a few. You guys do have, moving into like next season, I don't know what kind of traction you've got or how long you've had it for. You guys have a good one. It's really good. If you take all the Survivor-related podcasts, it's fucking good.
We appreciate that. We love hearing that.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
like James. We had James on last season. He started it with, "You guys should be part of Media Week," and like both of us were just like, "Well, now how are we going to do this podcast, man? Like, you just gave us such an ego boost. Like, get out of here. Like, I can't do this." But
and also like if we knew how to get into Media Week, we totally would.
Exactly.
So anyway, for anyone who's listening,
like anyone out there,
please contact us.
and we've been doing it for a while. I mean, I started the first season I did was the last 3 episodes of San Juan del Sur, so that was season 29. So I've been doing it for a long time.
Okay.
And I was doing it with a guy who actually he's a dream teamer, so he can't do it anymore, and that's when Alexa hopped in.
Yeah, that was like right leading into Game Changers. So I had a rough start.
Well, you're doing fine now.
This turned out.
We appreciate that.
This has turned out like far beyond I think either of our like wildest intentions. Like this has been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really...
So
yeah. Well,
what else you got, man? What else you got?
I forgot what I was gonna say, man.
Yeah, that's
it. That's a great way to end. Is just, hey, we have no idea. See you guys. See you guys on Sunday.
You're just like, hey guys, I had something great to say, but I forgot. Peace out.
It's all gone.
With our second video after this.
Yeah. Well, Alec, do you have anything you want to close with, and then Alexa can take us home with our ending. But do you have anything you want to close with? Any last? You're giving advice the whole time, so you know.
Yeah. Well, I'll close with this. Number one, thank you guys. That was I'm flattered that you wanted me on the podcast. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I was a little nervous. I'm like, what are they gonna ask me, dude? I'm not a podcaster, right? Mm-hmm. That was a lot of fun. And I just want to say, whoever's listening, I hope other people like repost. I wish you guys all the best because what you're doing is super rad. And you guys do have a good podcast. And I will say, I did watch what you guys said. I didn't mention that in the beginning about me, and my mom was the whole TMZ thing. And she goes, no, there's these guys, Phil and Alexa, that gave you like a fair shake. They're really cool. They're not like bashing you. I think a lot of podcasters, whether they played Survivor or they didn't or whatever, it's like if they did, they're like still holding on to this thing of Survivor. You guys have I think you do so well because you have this unbiased approach. And it's just like really, you got good personalities too.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. This is great. Keep going.
Yeah, anything else? We could do this for another hour if you want. Just keep going.
Yeah. I have written down here. No, you guys are rad. And I'm stoked you guys had me on. That was fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
And then I just wanted to say one final thing. Carl, sorry, bro. I beat you.
There it is.
There you go.
Well, I mean, that's probably the best possible way to end this. Just like, hey, Carl, if you're still listening, Alec beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ending.
That's it. Alexa, take us home.
Okay, I'll take us home real quick. So Alec added us. He at us on Instagram, and my phone has been blowing up. I think we gained over 100 followers in this 2.5 hours. So thank you, Alec, for blowing us up like that. Thank you, Kara. Kara really gave us a shout out too. With that, follow us on Instagram at Survivor Specialist. Same thing on Twitter, same thing on Facebook. We have the same name, same logo throughout. Keep subscribing on YouTube. I think even though it's the off season, we're at a little over 4,100. Give us 5 stars on iTunes. And make sure to follow Head and Heart on Instagram. They don't have a website yet, but I just followed them on Insta, and there are posts on the Instagram. So Alex got a really cool message. He's got a really cool story. He'll put this all over the website once it exists. And yeah, I honestly, I forget what I'm supposed to say after that, and there's no better way to end.
We'll just end it with Sunday, Kara.
Oh yeah, Sunday we're going to talk to Kara, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Sunday, Kara, 8 p.m. Eastern. So there, you heard it now. Kara already kind of appeared here. She gave us 2 seconds, but we're going to get the full thing. Maybe she'll beat Alec, and then we can really just start rubbing it in.
Yeah. God, then we're going to start clocking in 4-hour podcasts.
Yeah, everybody's going to have to top each other, and Alexa and I aren't going to sleep anymore. But
yeah,
no, this was. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say I can't wait to get Kara's side of this Amanda story, because I'm not done with Amanda yet. I want to know where Amanda went.
Yes. Yeah. We're gonna get all the details.
Oh my God.
I like that we had you come in first, and we can have Kara come in and kind of clean it all up. Yeah. But anyway, also guys, it's January, and like we keep saying, Will's gonna be here. So if anybody's paying attention, go to our Patreon. Follow us, subscribe to the Patreon. $20 patrons are going to get that catching up with Will. So don't forget, that's going to happen this month. Let's make it happen.
Subscribe. Follow. Best podcast out there, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. See y'all. Happy New Year.